I have not looked at any of this yet. So, turn off my own goddamn stream. What an embarrassment. Alright. So, content update 3.5.0 Path of Exile Betrayal. Table of contents. The Betrayal Challenge League. Alright, so this is an actual table of contents for an update. That's crazy. Have they done this before? I feel like I've never seen this before. Major new content and features, minor new content and features, master changes, character balance, skill rework, skill balance, support gem balance, passive tree balance, ascendancy balance, item balance, unique item balance, monster changes, temple of Azotl changes, Azurite Mine and Sulfite changes, bestiary and menagerie changes, prophecy changes, map changes, Zana League mods available during 3.5.0. That has its own section. Strongbox changes. Strongbox changes has its own section. Is pretty that's wild. I didn't know that was gonna be massive enough to warrant its own section. What?
They buffed Molten Strike again.
They buffed Molten Strike again?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, probably because they got rid of the stat sticks.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yep.
That might make a little bit more sense.
Yeah.
Alright, so do you want me to have you on Discord after I get into this? No? Okay.
Maybe.
After I've got through it, we can talk for a bit on Discord. I think that would be fine if you want to do that.
Sounds good.
So, Strongbox changes, user interface improvements, thank God, quest rewards, PvP changes, bug fixes. Okay, PvP changes. Okay, we're doing that again. The Betrayal Challenge League. Challenge Leagues are a great opportunity for a fresh start in the economy. All of your old characters and items are still present in the standard and hardcore leagues, but you're encouraged to join the new leagues. Complete challenges and demonstrate your mastery in Path of Exile. Sure. Yeah, that's for new players. The 3.5.0, there are standard and hardcore and solo self-found standard and hardcore variations of Betrayal Challenge League, not new. Mechanics and items. You can create private challenge or private leagues versions of these Betrayal League. Okay, yeah, that's new. But we already knew that. In Betrayal Challenge League, you will investigate the Immortal Syndicate whose sinister operations have begun to appear. Very close. Have the newest master, track progress of the investigation board, and force syndicate members to defeat and bargain with you. So that's just the user interface for Betrayal. Use the information you gain. Battle your way through safe houses, get rewards. Sheen can help you pull back the veil, revealing untold power on these items as veiled mods. New Challenge League includes a set of 40 new challenges. When you complete 12 challenges, you receive a Betrayal Helmet attachment. 24 challenges, you will receive Betrayal Aura Effect. 36 completed, you'll receive a Betrayal Cloak. Everybody loves those cloaks. Gotta be edgy. These microtransactions are only obtainable in this league, okay? Very standard stuff. 19th challenge onward, and every third challenge after that, you'll receive a piece of the Betrayal Totem Pole. Decoration displaying your hideout. The Totem Pole permanently showcases how many of the Betrayal challenges you completed during the league. Fantastic. Very standard. Alright, here we go. Major new content and features. New roster of masters, Alva, Nico, Einhar. We knew that. Zana, the Betrayal League's Jin Ortoy. Knew that. Einhar's bestiary content has been revamped. We knew that. Overhauled the hideout system. Hideout favorite decorations shared account wide. Counter hideouts throughout the game after rescuing Helen in Act 2. Okay. So, Chamberson's hideouts must be cleared of enemies before they can be claimed. It's interesting. Now reclaim all your hideout decorations stashes. the waypoint in your crafting bench with the click of a button. That's nice. I'm actually looking hugely forward to the hideout overall. That's very, very appealing to me. Click of a button and even export your hideout layer if you're particularly proud of your creation. Special map only hideouts are waiting in the endgame but are rare to stumble upon. That's such a good incentive for players to do stuff. Like, just having that as a cosmetic reward. Overhauled master crafting. You now have a single crafting bench in your hideout that covers all item types and crafting mods. You now gain new crafting mods from a variety of different sources, including through exploration and helping the new masters. You can also overwrite previously crafted mods at the cost of an orb of scouring. Yeah, it's very much what we expected. But the fact that you're only going to have one crafting bench in your hideout, guaranteed to have a hideout after the Chamber of Sins in Act 2, as soon as you clear it out, that's going to be really, really good. Added a new Strength Dex skill gem, Shattering Steel, swirling an axe or sword, releasing the projectiles in sequence. The projectiles shatter when colliding with an enemy. Strength Dex skill gem, Lancing Steel, we've seen that. Int skill gem, Winter Orb, that one looks... It looks like it's going to be crazy. It looks kind of... the playstyle looks like it's going to be... Literally stages over its duration after you stop channeling. It looks a lot like the playstyle is going to feel very much like Blade Vortex. Added new intelligent skill gem, Storm Brand. Yeah, we saw that. Periodically firing beams to enemies and enemies around them. Yep. Added new strength int skill gem, Armageddon Brand. We saw that. Add a new strength int skill gem, Brand Recall. Yeah, that I'm actually really happy they put that in, because it's going to make playing a brand main skill character feel a lot better. I was worried that they were going to overlook that. Don't know why. GGG is usually pretty good about this stuff, but very happy to hear about the brand recall ability. We saw it demoed in the last brand video. Brand recall, added new strength skill gem, Dread Banner. Yep, we saw that as well, I think. Cast reserve mana and carry its enemies impale with attacks. This puts the new impale property on nearby allies' attacks. Lessen the accuracy of nearby enemies, that's always good. Gain stages by impaling enemies while carrying banner. Okay, that's good. So banners are apparently going to gain charges as you go through the level as well, which means that they're going to be useful bossing abilities. Added a new strength skill gem, War Banner. Cast reserve mana and carry a banner, increase the accuracy of nearby enemies. Physical damage taken by nearby enemies. I believe we saw that. That's good. Multiple totem support. Very, very good. Super excited about that. Wondering if it's going to change up the totem meta. People are trying to explain that it wasn't going to be especially overpowered, but I really think that it's, for a lot of characters that couldn't go totems before, I think it's going to make totems a viable alternative where it wasn't before. A lot of characters are probably going to prefer that to trying to stack a bunch of totems on the left side of the tree through Ancestral Call and Tukahamas and that kind of stuff, because not only does it put down 2 totems at once, but it does a lot of work to increase your maximum number of summoned totems. It's like 2 for 1 support skill gem. And it really doesn't matter that it's very comparable to the damage increase. The only thing is that it's going to make, depending on the mana multiplier, it's going to make casting totems even heavier than they already are, and they're pretty heavy to begin with. Added a new Dex int support gem, Bone Chill support. Supported skills have increased effective chill on enemies. Enemies in a chilling area are from supported skills increased cold damage. Take increased cold damage over time and have damage taken increased by chill effect. Is that like a damage take? I keep reading. Enemies chilled by supported skills take increased cold damage over time and have damage taken increased by chill effect. Enemies in chilling areas versus enemies chilled by. Okay. Okay, that makes sense, but that means you can strap it to something like Arctic armor, right? And if you run through somebody and leave a trail of chilled grounds, that the enemies standing in the chilled ground, enemies in chilling areas from support skills. So yeah, if you strap it to Arctic armor and you run through something, they're going to take more damage from cold damage over time and from cold, and they're going to have their damage taken increased by chill effect, which is crazy because, well, I mean, they must have changed chill effect a bit, because I think you could stack chill effect up with like 100% or something. So if you're just dealing double damage all the time to stuff, and there's gonna, like, Frost Breath is still in the game, so what are you gonna do about that? People taking double damage, because those would stack multiplicatively from what I understand. Like, the double damage doesn't stack with double damage, for instance. If something says it has 50% chance to deal double damage, and then another thing says it has 50% chance to deal double damage, you don't then have a reduced chance to deal quadruple damage. You have 100% chance, they stack additively, you have 100% chance to deal double damage. But if this is 100% increased damage taken, if you have 100% increased chill effect, then you hit somebody with a Frost Breath and they're chilled, then they are taking quad damage from what you're... I mean, I think... I'm not sure. I'm going to have to just look at how that gets implemented. Added new skill, Focus. By itself, Focus is nothing. Oh yeah, I was actually really excited about this. Everybody else seems to think this is going to be a huge bummer because of the hotbar squeeze, but you know what? I think I'm actually really fond of their approach to fixing that, because the hotbar squeeze, you can kind of take one of two approaches to fixing it. The reason the hotbar squeeze feels so bad right now in my submission is because you've only got, like, I don't know, 7 something hotkeys, whatever. But most builds have, like, that number plus 1 or 2 utility skills that they could potentially use and make use of. So right now it feels like you put together a character and it's just got too many abilities. You're like, well, what about the last ability that I needed to put on my hotbar? I'm only missing 1 spot. So it doesn't feel like a trade-off, right? But if you have a whole plethora of utility abilities, like say there's 10 or 12 more utility abilities that could potentially be useful for your character, and you've got to make a real cost-benefit analysis and decide, and there's a trade-off, there's some decision-making in there, like which abilities will you actually fit onto your 7th bar, then instead of feeling like you're just missing out on one because you're friggin' short, it's going to feel like you made a decision. It's going to feel like there's more autonomy, and I feel like the perception of autonomy in that situation is maybe even more important than the reality of that autonomy. It's like, now you were always going to use these 7, but the perception of autonomy there really helps. Focus is enabled when you equip any item with a mod that interacts with Focus, but it is not supportable. See, I like that. I like the way that works. I'm glad that Focus isn't supportable by support gems, as everybody have to run an increased duration on it. I hate that kind of ubiquity. Added the advanced skill gem tutorial. By clicking the button, skill gem quest reward throughout Act 1. See a preview of how it will act with a variety of different support gems. That's nice. I like that a lot. Thank God they're integrating some of the more advanced information, thankfully. Added Atlas objectives, which are guaranteed master missions indicated on the Atlas of Worlds. When you complete a map, there's a chance for a new objective to appear. Or if you already have an objective of that type, move. Okay, so you complete a map, there's a chance it'll appear or a chance it'll move. So if it's somewhere you want it to be, you definitely want to run it then. Because if you run another map, there's a chance it'll move. Guaranteed master missions. So they're not dailies, basically. That's good. They just pop up, so you just want to play a lot. Objectives can appear on any non-unique map, but will favor completed maps or maps adjacent to completed maps. They also refresh every day, like daily missions used to. Okay, so they've got a chance to move if you run them, and a chance to to appear if you run a map. But you're guaranteed to get one a day, basically. So if you want to run a minimum, I like this because if you really only have so much time in a day and you want to run a minimum amount of maps, you get a maximum amount of yield, you can jump in and run your objective, throw some sextants down and run your objective, and then get that master mission, and that's good. But if you're just on the grind, if you're on the prowl and you're just running maps over and over and over, you're gonna spawn these and it's gonna feel good. This also promotes full atlas completion, which I've always been fond of completing your map completing your atlas as opposed to shaping it, but nobody else does that because it's kind of suboptimal. Like, it's just been demonstrated to be by and large suboptimal. I like it. It feels better to me to run a completed atlas and then to run a multitude, like a plethora of maps. But I like this because it pushes things in the direction of, like, it favors people that want to complete their maps fully, because even though it prioritizes maps that are completed, it can apparently spawn or move to maps that are not completed, which is cool. 13 new unique items. Excellent. 1 new fitted unique prophecy. Okay. 5 new div cards, 13 new hideouts. 3D art for unique body armor Ironheart. Okay. Slowly but surely. 5 new maps, which replace existing base types. Okay. This is good, because the old base types suck. Nothing against people who worked on that. They were working, they had other priorities probably, I'm sure, at the time. Labyrinth enchantments for new and reworked skills. Okay. Major new content features. Added a new rogue exile. Okay. Basic. Okay, added physics interactions to many skills, including Abyssal Cry, Blade Flare, Blade Vortex, Blink, Mirror Arrow, All Curses, Desecrate, Discharge. Physics interactions. Earthquake, Enduring Cry, Frostbomb, Ice Crash, Ice Nova, Leap Slam, Lightning Warp. The offering skills: Orb of Storms, Rallying Cry, Shield Charge, Sleep, and Wither. Wither gets a physics interaction? Physics interaction? Is that like... As soon as somebody says, like, physics, you think, in a video game, you think, like, ragdoll physics, so I don't know if things are going to be flying around. Maybe, I don't know. We'll say, the Lightning Mirage Nemesis mod now plays a noticeable sound when it triggers. Thank you. The Lightning Mirage was one of the worst Nemesis mods, before now, because sometimes you just not notice. You'd be speeding through a map pretty wild, and it's just not quite as noticeable as the other really dangerous Nemesis mods, but it is a very dangerous Nemesis mod, so you just get murked sometimes accidentally. Improve the performance of Lightning on DX9 clients. Okay. Added new dialogue for Sin to say in the epilogue. Okay. Masters now have a different exclamation mark color. It's orange. Orange. That deserved an exclamation mark. Hideout decorations have been categorized and are easier to sort through. That's huge. Hideout decorations were such a pain in the ass to sort through before. Hideout decorations have been categorized. One line down. The hideout map device now has several art variations to select from, including that fancy one in the Templar Laboratory. All right. Who's gonna use anything but the fancy one? Plebs, that's who. Or people who are optimizing because they don't have anything better to do in a video game. You can now move and rotate your hideout waypoint. Okay. That's a really big one, actually. That's a huge one for folks who are optimizing. Cosmetic aura effect can now be applied to any aura. I remember seeing that in the minor updates on the Path of Exile official Discord. That's really huge because it means that you're no longer going to have to run really aesthetically dissonant auras, or auras that just aesthetically don't fit your character. Added a Seek Prophecy button to the Prophecy panel that shows up whenever the Seal Prophecy buttons are visible. whenever the seal prophecy buttons, seek prophecy buttons, the prophecy panel. Seek prophecy to the prophecy panel when the seal prophecy buttons are visible. I mean, I understand adding a seek prophecy to the prophecy panel because that's just convenient. But why this is the seal prophecy? So only when you have a prophecy, the seek prophecy button will be available when you have a prophecy to seal, but not if your prophecies are empty or something. I don't understand that. I'm probably just reading it wrongly, like an idiot. Continued to incrementally improve the sound, art, effects, and environments. Of course. It's good stuff. Master changes. These guys are no longer available as Forsaken Masters. They've disappeared entirely. It's so mysterious. Einhar, Frey's now a master. Act 2. Nico is master. Act 4. Alva is a master. Act 7. She'll send you into incursions. So incursions, Voltaxic Sulfide, and Bestiary. Very good. Masters including Zana no longer have reputation levels. Features such as crafting bench options are, as a result, no longer unlocked by grinding master missions, and are instead unlocked by encountering specific location situations or completing specific objectives. This is just going to be a better system. So, very excited for that. Hideouts are no longer unlocked or improved through master grinding. Instead, Helena will help you unlock new hideouts found throughout the campaign and very rarely within the Atlas. Very good. Newly obtained hideouts are automatically at their maximum size and hold all masters without being upgraded. Yes! Alright. I'm very excited about that. Sorry, I probably peaked real bad on the microphone then. Zana's map device options and the items she sells are now unlocked based on your progress through the Shaper Elder questline. She can now occasionally sell higher tier maps as well as sextants. Thank you. I've always felt like one of the cures to map sustain is to buy those mid-tier maps from Zana. Like she'd occasionally sell, I think, like T9s, but never T10s, I don't think. And I was like, well, I guess if you buy those from her every single day and fuse them up, you know, you're padding your red map pool by making tier 10s. But you know, now she's really going to contribute to your red map sustain, which, you know, newer players still have a lot of trouble with. So making that part of the game more accessible, more available to new players, always a good thing. Completing master missions still earns you favor. Okay, and masters now have favor levels that cap out at 7. Okay, these levels unlock hideout decorations that are account-wide because favor decorations hideouts are purely cosmetic. Yeah, favor costs for hideout decorations have been rebalanced. Man, I'm sad that there are people in this community who make this necessary to say, because I had to spend a couple of seconds of my life trying to figure out why they would include this, and then I realized, oh, some dumb asshole is still going to try to claim that this is pay to win. So they're throwing those people a bone, like, hey, look, seriously, it's cosmetic. It doesn't give you an advantage. And somebody's still going to stamp their foot and throw a tantrum. Say, hey, pay to win. Of course, people could maybe even potentially have a foothold with that, considering the stash tabs being MTX. Anyway, added a new debuff, Impale. When a hit implies Impale, a portion that fits physical damage recorded before sources of damage mitigation are applied. Next 5 hits against that target are recorded damage as reflected physical damage. The next 5 hits against that target apply that recorded damage as reflected physical damage. So you hit something, Impale applies a portion of your damage as pure damage, basically. And then the next 5 hits apply the recorded damage again. As reflected physical damage? Now, it says apply. It's apply to the enemy, right? Does it apply it to you? It doesn't apply it to you. So it's just like repeatedly, it's stacking phys damage. So that kind of sounds like Urza's stacking damage from Dota or something like that. I'll have to see it in action to really get a feel for how it works. Energy shield recharge is no longer interrupted by non-damage changes to your life or energy shield, such as when you spend your energy shield spend your energy shield on skills via Eldritch Battery. Non-damage changes to your life or energy shield, but what about mana? See, my question to Mark, and I don't think he replied to me, but we can check. We're at Path of Exile. This page is not working. Oh no! I must have DC'd. Did I DC? It says I'm good. Let's write it down. So my question to Mark, oh here we go. Okay, he hasn't replied apparently. I tagged him in a Reddit comment, I'm not surprised. He usually responds when I PM really quickly. He's super good at his job. The guy is amazing. Feels like he's 10 people, honestly. Anyway, what I wanted to know about this was, because before when you were testing, if you had EB and you also had Omeacons, the mana loss, so Omeacon says that you lose mana, which didn't strike me as damage, but non-damage changes to life before would interrupt energy shield recharge. So when you used Eldritch Battery, the mana inherited the properties of energy shield related to life, except it was now energy shield related to mana. So what would happen is if you had Omeacons and you had Eldritch Battery, your mana would be draining, and that would constantly interrupt your energy shield recharge timer. Now, that didn't prevent you from having energy shield, so you'd like, say, enter a map with energy shield, but then as soon as you get hit, say your energy shield drops to like 50% or something like that, the Eldritch Battery energy shield protecting your mana, and your mana is draining due to Omeacons, your energy shield is never going to recharge, because the energy shield recharge has no opportunity to start recharging. Now, I'm wondering if this change will fix that. I believe it will, because the inherited property of non-damage changes to your life that Eldritch Battery used to give your mana will no longer be something that can be inherited, because it doesn't, according to this, I don't think it is a thing anymore, basically. It doesn't exist anymore, right? So it won't interrupt your energy shield recharge. I think that's a big deal. I think Eldritch Battery, Omeacon, maybe Hierophants, even Pathfinders, Pathfinder Poet's Pen characters with Omeacons, Sappho's Frame, anybody? Lightning Warp Arc? I mean, I don't know. But it sounds pretty damn good to me. I think that there's got to be at least one pretty damn viable Omeacon Eldritch Battery character out there. You no longer use skills that require a specific weapon if you are dual wielding and one of your equipped weapons is unsuitable for that skill. This is their answer to stat sticks? This is fucking stupid. You will no longer be able to use Reeve with a dagger and a scepter equipped. This change means that the popular stat stick strategies will no longer work for attacks. I think it's too early to say whether this change I think it's a little too early to say whether this is my immediate visceral knee-jerk reaction to this change is that it's fucking stupid. Where is my... There we go. Yo, Toll, how's it going? I'm here for the unique items section to listen to a person who knows what they're talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about. Number one, I don't fucking know what I'm talking about. But number two, I fucking hate this change. I think this is stupid as shit. This is not the way to fix stat stick strategies. Stat sticks were only a problem because I don't know if I can say that authoritatively. From what I understood about it, stat sticks were really only mainly a problem. Because the extra damage, added as extra damage, elemental and chaos modifiers on items could stack with each other. And I don't understand that, because there are a lot of other item affixes in the game that preclude each other. Like, for instance, the one that I find most garish and stupid, the reason is that the immolate and the immolate gems are supported by there's a helmet suffix, and it is socketed gems are supported by increased burning damage, and then there's another helmet affix, and I think they're both elder. It could be shaper, I could be wrong. I'm not going to check right this second, but the other affix is socketed gems are supported by level X immolate, and those two suffixes cannot roll on the same mod. They're mutually exclusive. They consume the same affix position, which is fucking stupid, because you don't get that same thing happening for the very comparable prefixes with like supported by minion damage, supported by minion life, supported by concentrated effect. You can have 3 prefixes that are supported bys, but you can't have 3 suffixes that are supported bys, and there doesn't seem to be any kind of justification for that. Like, you can invent one, but it's arbitrary. Maybe they just decided that burning damage and immolate both being on a suffix would be too powerful. I don't understand why that would be the case if something like minion damage and minion life showing up on a prefix is not too powerful. This is fucking stupid. The change that I would have preferred would have been the added as extra damage mods no longer being stackable. They should preclude each other. That would have been the change that I would have liked to see. This might work. People might not mind this. This might go over well. I don't like it. I'm not a game developer, so take that with a grain of salt. As a result of this change, Ground Slam, Vol Ground Slam, Shield Charge, Leap Slam, Double Strike, Vol Double Strike, Reckoning, Ice Crash, Earthquake, Vol Earthquake, Sunder, Word of Light, Edict of Light, Decree of Light, Command of Light, Word of War, Edict of War. These are all the glove enchants. Decree of War, Command of War, Tectonic Slam, Consecrated Path, Smite, Ancestral War Chief, Vol Ancestral War Chief are no longer main hand only. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense, I guess. You can now queue a weapon swap action during another action, and then queue a skill after that. So they're basically enabling in-game macros for this kind of thing. Let me see. This allows you to, for example, weapon swap to a weapon that will allow you to leap slam, hit your leap slam button, and then let it play out. Your skill binds are now specific to your weapon set. That means that you can have an entirely different set of skills bound to main set of weapons and your second set of weapons, and can swap between them by weapon swapping. Okay, those are 2 huge changes. So there's macros for movement skills, so I can do something like have an offset bright beak shield charge and press a button and have that happen and then swap back. Apparently, I think maybe I'm parsing that wrong. Maybe it's only a skill use after the fact and you can't swap back or whatever. Like, it feels like I could just use that as a movement skill and have it automatically happen. I'll have to see how that works in game. added new stats, non-ailment chaos damage overtime multiplier and cold damage overtime multiplier. These affect their respective damage over time types multiplicatively. This might mean that a true Death Scythe character that does not also rely on Blight, ED Contagion, and every other thing that every chaos damage character in the game used is viable. You might just be able to be straight up heavily invested into Death Scythe as a Death Scythe character. That might work. Non-ailment chaos damage over time. So that's non-poison for anybody watching this that doesn't... The only non-ailment chaos damage over time... Or the only ailment chaos damage over time is poison, I believe. So... The total amount that you can slow the expiration of an effect on a character through time-slowing mechanics, such as temporal changes, is now capped at 75 from all sources. Okay, thank you. I'm tired of shenanigans. Updated the reminder text for ailments to include all the 3 new elements. Okay. Updated how sources of additional maximum totems are described. Okay. Updated and improved various mod descriptions. Okay. Skill reworks. Arctic Breath. No longer ground projectiles, now capable of passing over gaps and cliffs. No longer leaves a trail of chilled ground, now leaves a chilled area on impact. We saw this in the video. There's a video of this. You guys can look it up. You can now target specific locations with this skill. The projectile will impact at the location if it does not collide with something sooner. That is really cool. That's really cool. I want to use Arctic Breath. Now requires level 28. That's so uncool. I'm so tired of skills being delayed that way. Just let us use whatever ability from level 1. It's not... please know it's my build. Yeah, you know who else wants to use it? My roommate, Ethan. So, we got like 3 people immediately looking at Arctic Breath. It just looks really good, man. And the fact that they're bringing shotgunning mechanics back basically specifically for Arctic Breath, which what I mean by that, by the way, is if you send out a whole bunch of Arctic Breath, say that you attach both lesser multiple projectiles and greater multiple projectiles to Arctic Breath, you're going to get like this spray. And if you, since it says it's going to explode where you click, if you like click right on top of the boss and you get like 12 explosions, as long as the boss is within the AoE of all 12 of those explosions, every one of the explosion damage is going to stack and it's going to leave 10 chilled ground effects there. The damage from the chilled ground effects does not stack though. That's very, very important to recognize. So be careful when you're building Arctic Breath characters to make sure that you get those 2 points right. I believe I have them right. Ready to eat my words if I have them wrong. No longer pierces at short range. Ice Spear. So the Ice Spear video is really underwhelmed, but it does look better than the previous Ice Spear. Rapid sequence of Ice Spears, which move 300% faster after arming. So they kind of start out slow and then they go whoosh. It actually looks relatively fun to play. Gains a critical strike multiplier after it arms. I hope that this is huge. Now pierces after it arms. Okay, yep. I really hope that Ice Spear received significant buffs as well as these kind of mechanical changes, because otherwise it is a relatively underwhelming change. Tectonic Slam. Charge Slam, which typically consumes an endurance charge. Now deals 60% more damage, up from 18. Is that a real number change? It used to deal 18, and now it deals 60% more? That's multiplicative damage. That's cool. That's huge. Tectonic Slam might be really good now, or Charge Slam. Charged Slam. They're really good now. Oh wait, Tectonic Slam. Charged Slam? Which typically consumes an endurance. I'm gonna have to use this skill. I've never used Tectonic Slam. I'm gonna have to jump in a game and mess with it. Now has a 35% chance of consuming an endurance charge to create a Charge Slam down from 100%. Whew, this is going to be a better ability than it was, at the very least. Skill balance, Vol Haste, Vol Grace, Vol Clarity, Vol... This list. VD, Vol Impurity of Fire, Vol Impurity of Lightning, Ice, VMS, Vol Righteous Fire, Gluttony of Elements, Blood of Corruption, you can are now all now instant with very short cooldown. What? Alright, so the Vol skills are now all instant with very short cooldown. That's so good! Okay, so before we had this thing happening where... cause I love to run characters with like Vol Haste. Even after the changes, Vol Haste wasn't as good. But when they made the changes to auras, I was actually really, really sad that stuff like Vol Haste didn't get the same instant treatment because you want to run fast. Like, it's more fun to run fast. I don't mind running a slow character, right? But it's more fun to run fast when you can. There's no reason to slow your character down. And the way that they had it was like you'd have all these instant abilities. Your flasks you can like popsicle stick macro your 1 through 5 keys. You just smash them, and you get everything all happening at once. You don't have to slow down at all. Your character doesn't like pause to do any animations. But then you want to use your like Vol skill that you want to be up 100% of the time, and it's got this really long backswing animation. It's just characters like Vol Haste, and then runs, and it's like you ate 0.5 seconds of my Vol skill just with the backswing animation. So now that that's gone, it's very short cooldown. Very short cooldown. I'm gonna have to know what that is. Alright, Tempest Shield's now instant. Also grants plus 3% chance to block spell damage. Tempest Shield, boys. We in it. Vortex is now instant with a 1.8 second cooldown. That's so good. Can now detonate from up to 5 Frostbolt projectiles at once. They're really pushing this whole Vortex Frostbolt thing, like, super hard, to the point where it's going to be so good. No one likes being a turtle forever. Yeah, no one likes being a turtle forever. So, like, they're really pushing this Frostbolt Vortex thing. Man, you said I want all these to be, like, if a skill doesn't have to have a long wind-up or doesn't have to feel clunky, I don't want it to. If feeling clunky is a part of the skill, like, if a skill is powerful enough for to compensate for it feeling clunky, and it feels good, like this good visceral interaction to it, like, I don't mind something like Vol Ground Slam taking a minute to, like, swing up over your head and slam the ground or something like that, because it's so damn powerful, and maybe it clears the whole screen or whatever. I love that. That's fine. If it doesn't need that, it shouldn't have it, because it just feels bad. Gains increased cooldown recovery speed as the gem levels up. Wow. Deals 42 to 63 at level 1, down from 50 to 75. So they did nerf the damage a bit. To 538 to 808. Up from 458 to 688. They actually made it better. Alright, it's Vortex time. It's the Vortex time. I'm making a Vortex character. That's it. Deals 116 base cold damage per second at gem level 1. Yeah, because, like, here's the thing. So the cold skills are all reworked, right? So you've got this new cold damage over time multiplier. Vortex is now instant and can do the Vortexes stack, right? If I remember reading, the cold skill no longer deals 40% more damage when cast on Frost. Okay. Now it's 20% less area of effect when cast on Frost. Oh! But they stack, right? Do multiple Vortexes stack? Can you shoot like 5 Frostbolts, cast Vortex, and have 5 cold damage over time effects stacked on a boss? Is that possible? Can you do that? Because that sounds broken as shit. My lack of knowledge doesn't understand the detonate 5 Frostbolt sentence. Okay, so what happens, right, is if you've got the skill Frostbolt, which sends out this orb of slow-moving cold damage over time, doesn't collide it as an automatic piercing property. You activate Frostbolt you activate Vortex, which is a different skill that you're probably familiar with. Activate Vortex, and instead of popping a Vortex around you, it's got this special synergy with Frostbolt, which, whether you like that or not, it's in the game. And it, instead of spawning on you, it bursts your Frostbolt projectile wherever it was. So it treats your Frostbolt as the origin point of the Vortex. It bursts your Frostbolt open and it pops into that Vortex. So instead of putting the Vortex on you, it puts it on your Frostbolt, and boom, you have one Frostbolt exploding into a Vortex at, like, the edge of your screen or whatever, so that you didn't have to go up there and cast Vortex like a melee character maniac. But what is cool about the Vortex Frostbolt interaction has always been, one of the things is that you can actually detonate multiple frost bolts at once. So say that you use like LMP, you can detonate, you get like 2 or 3. I forget, I think it was up to 3 before. Now it's up to 5. And if those overlap, I'm not sure that they do, maybe not. It sounds broken. But if those overlap, then what you do is you shoot 5 frost bolts at the boss. Or you get right up in the boss's face with GMP, throw out 5 frost bolts, and then pop them into vortexes, and the boss dies because he's got 5 vortexes on him. And now Vortex has a damage multiplier, cold damage multiplier over time that they just put in the game as a spanking new affix. So that might be possible to do. I doubt it. We'll see. GGG is a strict no fun policy, which has never affected me, but everybody else complains about it, so I assume it exists. We will see if we will see if that interaction is real, even if it's not just the base damage increase. So what they did was they took this 40% more damage when cast on Frostbolt away, and they gave it a lesser of effect instead. But the 40% more damage, it's not quite that much, right? It's 538 from 458. So what is that like? It's not quite a fifth. It went up. It's 100, so it's almost a fifth. So almost a 20% damage up here on its base damage. Almost a 20% more damage multiplier than base damage. So self-casting Vortex might be better now. So they took some of the damage synergy out of the skill and they put it on the base damage, which is fantastic. I'm a big fan. Anyway, Ice Nova deals 19 to 28 at gem level 1. Well, thanks, guys. Up from 15 to 21. That's pretty good, though, actually, if you think about it. That's 7 up the top and, 4 down the bottom? 4 being about 25%, 33% of the skill damage, so it's like a third more damaging at level 1. 632 to 930 up from, wow, okay. Yeah, that's about... It just received like a 33% more. Can now expand from up to 2 Frostbolt projectiles at once. So the Ice Nova skill, so this is a Frostbolt thing is what it is. That's how you have to look at it, I guess. Frostbolt, you can cast Nova-like spells from them, period, basically. Just interesting. But anyway, you can cast your Ice Nova from your Frostbolt locations as well, same way as I described before, I guess. That's interesting. I don't know if I like it, but it's a Frostbolt thing, and because the base damage of all these Cold Nova abilities seems to be going up, you probably aren't forced to use that synergy if you don't want to, especially with the diminishing skill, the diminishing hotbar. The hotkey bar is getting more and more crowded as they add these awkward synergies. Anyway. No longer deals 40% more damage when cast on Frostbolt. Oh, did they already have that in the game? I just haven't used Frostbolt. I used it like twice and didn't level the character back when it came out. I just didn't like the skill. Now has 20% lesser of effect cast on it, so same treatment as Vortex. Now has a smaller radius at gem level 1, gaining up to 4 radius at gem level 20. This is good. A self-cast Ice Nova build might actually not feel the worst ever. Now, I'd like to mess around with all these cold skills. Cold Snap now deals 19.6 at gem level 1. Up to 1,196 base cold damage at gem level 20. Up from 997. So what is this? Is this up or down? I do not know, but it looks like it's probably another up. It's probably like 33% up again or something like that. This looks like this isn't quite a third. It's like 200. This is 20%, basically. It's out of 1,200, you get like 20, right? So, Whirling Blades now uses weapon attack time plus 0.6 seconds rather than overriding your base attack time. While base weapon speed will have some effect, this change is intended to reduce the travel speed difference between characters using weapon local attack speed modifiers and characters who are not. okay, I like the intention of that change. We'll see how it pans out. I agree with what they're trying to do. It strikes me as a positive change, but we'll see how that pans out. I'm not sure that the Brightbeak Shield Charge changes were necessarily good for the game. Maybe, though. I think so, actually. Probably less ubiquitous mobility is just better. Leap Slam now uses weapon attack time plus 0.55 seconds rather than overriding your base attack time. That's actually... we'll see. Well, base weapon speed will have some effects, so same treatment as Whirling Blades. Using weapon local and otherwise. Okay, Molten Strike now deals 120% of base damage at gem level 1 and 161% of base damage up from 147 at gem level 20. Okay. Projectiles deal 40% less damage at level 1 and 30% less damage from 40 at level 20. Okay, so it gets better with the projectile damage gets better over time now where it didn't before, apparently. I think this is just a Molten Strike buff, apparently, but I guess since we are removing stat sticks, like my roommate pointed this out earlier, we're removing stat sticks. Almost, I mean, we kind of are. Yeah, we are. So since stat sticks are no longer a thing, Molten Strike's going to be slightly less popular. It's not like they absolutely needed them, though. Anyway, we'll see how this affects Molten Strike. Molten Strike's still going to be extremely good, one of the best melee skills for sure. Phase Run now grants 50% reduced visibility to enemies, down from 80. Haha, never again will Phase Run characters just stick around in the Azurite mines, I guess. Herald of Purity, minions summoned by this skill now deal more physical damage based on gem level rather than more damage. Okay. More physical damage rather than more damage. So they're not going to be as good with stuff like Wrath, where you add flat lightning, and they won't scale quite as crazily off of stuff like Hatred, where it takes part of their damage and puts it on them as... Does that work? That works, right? So you take Hatred and you take 50% of their damage added as extra cold, and then they scale that damage just off of their gem, which is crazy because they're such cheap minions. I wonder if there's a Herald of Agony nerf here. The Agony Crawler now deals increased physical damage rather than increased damage. There we go. Both of these receive the same kind of nerf treatment. Just because they're such cheap minions to have. It's like you have 25% mana reservation, now you have minions. Or at least a minion. The Herald of Agony does so much damage. Herald of Purity, it actually confuses a lot of bosses from what I've experienced. I've played a few characters with Herald of Purity in Delve League, and it was really nice just having them mess with the boss, basically. Support Gem Balance, cast on critical strike support, now has a cooldown of 0.15 seconds, down from 0.5 seconds. That is huge. I know I've been seeing this everywhere on Reddit, but cast on crit is back. That's not quite 4 times the speed, right? That's say over the course of 10 seconds, you're gonna get, calculate this. Was it like 10 divided by 0.15? You get 66 over 10 seconds at max value rather than 10 divided by 0.5, 20. I don't know why I needed to do that on the calculator. So triple and then some, which is really nice. Cast on melee kill. Aura's cast on melee kill is back. It's not really, though. Unfortunately, this doesn't help us that much. So, block chance reduction support. Supported skills now have 10% reduced enemy block chance at level 1, down from 20%. Block chance reduction support. This is a PvP thing, right? And 20% reduced enemy block chance at gem level 20. You know, I want them to put blocking... I don't know if there are blocking mobs in the game yet. I want to put them there. I want them to put them into the game and make them a threat so that you actually have to use this for some PvE purpose. If a supported skill is blocked, it inflicts overpowered, which reduces block chance by 5% for 4 seconds and can be applied any number of times. So this is basically Hall of Grandmaster stuff, where if you have to kill rogue exiles that are built to block everything, you can throw on a block chance reduction support gem, or in PvP if you want to do that. Passive tree balance. Oh boy, this is a lot. We are not even halfway through. Eldritch Battery now causes you to have 50% less energy shield recharge rate. That's fine. Because non-damage sources of mana loss don't interrupt energy shield recharge. So what's going to happen is if you've got sufficient energy shield through EB and you don't have something like Mind for Matter, your mana's never taking damage. Right? It's only taking non-damage loss, which means that you're never interrupting energy shield recharge, so it's always going to start a certain amount of time after you start casting, so it's infinite mana for a lot of characters. The Essence Surge Cluster now grants a total of 30% increased energy shield recharge rate, down from 60. It also now grants a total of plus 60 to maximum energy shield. Okay. Faith and Steel. Near the Templar. Faith and Steel near the Templar also grants 10% increased energy shield recharge rate. Okay, so this is all a recharge rate. It's not, start of energy shield recharge rate, which is really important. Mental Rapidity now grants 10% energy shield recharge rate. That's cool. That's cool. I like the mental rapidity. I always liked the mental rapidity wheel, but it was weird to pick it up on a lot of characters. This might help. Foresight, north of the Scion wheel, now also grants 10% increased energy shield recharge rate. Yes, I like the Foresight. Foresight was another good one. I think people got this if they were ES Scion, though. So it's not going to like change a whole lot of builds, I don't think. And a lot of times people cross through that, I believe. To get from one wheel to the other. Added passive skill clusters for new brand skills. The Explosive Runes cluster between the Templar and Witch increases damage with brand skills. You know what? Do we have, let me see. I'm going to pop up in the Path of Exile official Discord real quick and see if we get, hey, check out improvements to Tectonic Slam. Do I 32 man? That's ooh, more area damage. It's awesome when it occurs, especially when clearing, but on single targets makes a smaller portion damage output. Okay, yeah. That looks cool. I was wondering if there's a tree somewhere, like a new tree. If anybody in chat finds a new skill tree somewhere, you feel free to link it. I'm not gonna spend time looking for it right now. Runesmith Cluster Niche. So anyway, Explosive Rune Cluster near Templar, which increases damage with brand skills, brand attachment range, and allows you to cast an additional brand. Brand attachment range is going to be really, really important because it's going to, from what I understand, when the brands are going to feel the most like what used to be like a rabies druid type thing from Diablo 2, which is something I've been wanting to experience again. That playstyle was really fun for me. So what you're going to do is you're going to drop a brand, an enemy's going to pick it up, and some shit's going to happen all around that enemy. It's like a constantly casting spell that attaches itself to enemies, right? So when the mob dies, it's going to drop the brand, and the brand then wants to reattach itself. It looks to reattach itself. It's got a duration both while on the mob and then while on the floor. I think those durations, from what I was reading from Mark's posts, what I took him to mean is that those durations are separate and both scale with the increased duration of the brand skill. And so when it drops, the brand's just going to be there on the ground, but it's going to be immediately looking to reattach itself. And I think the attachment speed might be a thing as well. I'm not sure. The Runesmith cluster near the Shadow grants increase. So anyway, sorry, I was saying this is going to be really important. Brand attachment range. If you get this wide enough, it's like a self-map clearing ability. I don't know if that's going to work out that way, but it could be really fun. We're Runesmith, especially with the brand recall skill. The Runesmith cluster near the shadow grants increased damage to brand skills, brand attachment range, brand activation frequency. Brand activation frequency. Alright. We'll figure out what that is. Cause your brands to deal increased damage to enemies they are attached to and allows you to cast an additional brand. Okay, so that Runesmith cluster is going to be the major... Sounds like one of the major brand wheels. And it sounds like it's going to be more or less necessary if you want a main skill brand character, because having two of them, I don't think, is going to reduce the damage at all. I don't know if a monster can only have one brand attached to it. But I think probably you're going to see that more than one brand can be attached to a mob. I'm not sure. Definitely look into sab brand traps, yeah. Causes your brands to deal increased damage, then allows you to cast an additional brandage, or an additional brand. So like, you're gonna be able to cast two brands. Maybe they both attach themselves to the boss, and the boss is taking increased damage since you have a brand attached to it. That would be good. It's like the Celestial Punishment Wheel, except for brands. Really nice. Not quite. Somebody's going to call me on bullshit on that one, but hopefully the point is clear. Added a new keystone adjacent to the Ancestral Bond keystone. Runebinder. -1 maximum number of summoned totems. You can have an additional brand attached to an enemy. Oh. Okay, so I guess you do have a maximum number of brands that you can attach to an enemy. I wonder if 1 is the default maximum. Ancestral Bond Cluster now also offers increased damage with brand skills, increased brand attachment range, and increased brand activation frequency. Unfortunately, stretching from Shadow to Templar is tough. So if you're a brand character, I don't know if you're going to be able to do all this, or if you want to specialize on one side of the tree or not. It's going to be interesting. They're here. They're gonna take me away. The Ancestral Bond Cluster now also offers increased damage. Oh, yep, I just read this. It's good though. Yeah, stretching Shadow to Templar is hard. Yeah, it is. It can be really. It's one of the tougher ones to do because the long way around brings you through four start locations, right? But the short way around, there's so much less health that it's a depressing choice, basically. Hey, Venice, how's it going, man? Thanks for stopping by. I'm reading the patch notes. The Shaman Dominion, I'll get back to it. The Shaman's Dominion cluster near which also offers increased critical strike chance with the brand skills, increased damage with brand skills. Okay, so it's all the totem stuff has now become brand stuff as well. I'm wondering what that means for the placement of brand characters on the tree. I like that they gave us a little bit of diversity here. Modified several cold and chaos damage clusters to better support the damage over time. Skills, the Corruption Wheel, north of which... This one was a bummer. This one I think only Death's Oath characters picked up before. I'm not entirely sure about that though. Non-ailment chaos damage over time multiplier. Corruption Notable now grants 10% increased damage over time, down from 15, and 10% increased chaos damage, down from 15. Okay, so they're splitting it up and making it somewhat stronger. That's fine. I like this change. I like all changes to chaos. All buffs to chaos damage are friendly to me. Atrophy between the Shadow and Witch and the 3 preceding passives now grant plus 19% to non-ailment chaos damage. Please let this one be a strong buff. Plus 19 to non-ailment chaos damage over time multiplier. Atrophy now grants 20% increased chaos damage, down from 25. Okay, so there's 5 away. 3 preceding passives now each grant 10, down from 12. So 6 gone. So 6 and 5, 11 gone, and 19 added is an 8% buff. I don't know if that's enough. This is such a hard node to pick up. Travel-wise, there's so few builds that want to travel through Atrophy. Wait, Atrophy? Alright, fine. We'll do it. We'll do it. We'll open path the building. We can see with our eyes what we can see. Atrophy's down here. Nope. Atrophy's right here. Atrophy? I just had the wrong skill. Oh, okay. Yeah, this one. No, this one's fine. I'm okay with this change. I thought they were changing growth and decay. Growth and decay is really hard to pick up for a lot of builds. This is an ugly travel path leading outward from shadow or into any of the stuff over here. So I'm hoping if growth and decay gets a buff, yep, right here, growth and decay, between the shadow and which now also grants 8% to both cold damage, overtime multiplier, and non-ailment cast damage overtime multiplier, and that's just a buff, but it's only 8%. I don't know how much more enticing growth and decay really is, just based on this change. The method to the madness cluster near the shadow wheel, and we just looked at that one, it's the one south of it, now provides a total plus 14 to non-ailment chaos, non-AI ailment, that's a typo, chaos damage overtime multiplier, plus 14, 28% to chaos resistance up from 20, and 46% increased chaos damage down from 54. What is that? 10? Breath of Rhyme, and the two preceding passives now also grant plus 20 to cold damage. Okay, 14, and then you lose 10, so it went up 4, and it gained some chaos resist. I think that will make this more desirable. A lot of people skipped this, even if it was like a very convenient node and it had appropriate damage type. It was still something that was just so shoddy. It was like you'd rather get a weapon specialty node or something like that. So I like that change. I'm glad they buffed it anyway. And Breath of Rhyme is cool too, right? Breath of Rhyme, where is that? Is that up here? Fingers of Frost. Breath of Rhyme, is that this one? Breath of Rhyme, gimme. Excuse me? Okay, there we go. No. What? That's Primeval Force. Oh, Breath of Rhyme's the big main one? And it's now just got the cold damage multiplier? Yeah, that's okay. I got it. So, yeah. That's fine. I mean, people who are going to get that are still going to get it. And people who weren't probably still aren't. The Fingers of Frost cluster near Shaprito provides total 28% cold damage down from 36%. Okay, 22% cold damage over time multiplier. I mean, this is multiplicative damage, right? So if it's cold damage over time that you're talking about, then this is going to be, or I'll have the notes been for you. So far, I'm happy. I'm actually okay. So far, wildly positive. Crafting bench changes, hideout changes, master changes, everything in Betrayal is highly sought after, and huge consensus from the community. They are doing nothing but wonderful changes so far. The one thing, and I know it was a recent change, I know it was a recent decision because they recently had one of the lead tech developers on Bayclast from GGG, is the stat stick change, and I hated that. That's the one change. I really don't think they handled that very well. I think that's the wrong move, and I'm surprised that because it sounded like they hadn't had any discussion about it when it was talked about by the developer on Bayclast. But then, what was I going to say? Then they made that change. They had to have made it in like the last 3 weeks. And implemented it. And it seems like a huge change, and I don't understand why they did that. And the change was that now skills which before would accept an input, if you had a weapon type that didn't match, say it was a skill that would alternate attacks, Well, it wouldn't alternate if you had an offhand weapon that didn't match the weapon type required for the attack, and instead, you'd end up just swinging with your main hand every single time. And what they've done is they've just disabled that. So it's like before what you would do is you'd use an offhand with a bunch of stats on it to buff up the main hand swing, right? And it's super powerful because there are properties on offhand weapons that say basically take a portion of your physical damage and add it as extra of an elemental type. And for some reason, they've got like 4 of these properties can come on one weapon. So you got like a 40% extra, like physical damage added as extra chaos, added as extra fire, lightning, and cold, or whatever. And so what would happen is you just end up with a weapon that's basically doubling your like an offhand weapon that was not the appropriate type for your attacks, so that you're cheesing it so you're only swinging with your main hand, and then it's just like doubling and then some of your damage by adding that much in elemental and chaos. It's garbage. But instead of fixing that by fixing the affixes, which I think would have been cleaner, since I don't know, I think the interaction between alternating weapons and having a weapon type that doesn't quite fit it and having it swing with only your main hand weapon is a clever interaction. But maybe not, maybe that was just a design oversight. But anyway, they fixed that in a way that I didn't expect, and I don't think that I like it. But I'll hold my breath. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. The fact that these are all damage multipliers is crazy. Damage over time skills are going to be wild. Like Vortex is going to be absolutely nuts. 5% chance to freeze, 10% chance to freeze enemies which are chilled. It's now spread across 5 total passives from 4. That's interesting. So it's going to be more investment. Fingers of Frost. Ascendancy Balance. The Occultist. New Notable Withering Presence. 60% to Chaos Resistance. What? The Occultist. New Notable. 60% to Chaos Resistance. Okay. Yeah, I just gotta take a minute to take that in. That's a lot to Chaos Resistance. That's a huge... That's 2 items. Basically, 2 reasonably well-rolled items. Worth of Chaos Resistance. That's really nice. 20% to Occultist Arctic Breath. Go. 20% non-ailment chaos damage overtime multiplier. Non-ailment chaos damage every second. Inflict withered on nearby enemies for 15 seconds. This is a much cleaner solution than the negative 20 chaos resistance aura that they used to have, because this exploits a mechanic that you used to have to stack yourself with a totem, so you might not do that now. Inflict withered on nearby enemies for 15 seconds every second. So if I recall correctly, the maximum number of stacks of wither in the game right now is 15. So if you're standing next to an enemy for 15 seconds, so if you're locked in a boss fight for 15 seconds, then from that 15th second forward, provided that you're nearby them, they've got the maximum number of wither stacks, which is really nice. Nearby hindered enemies deal 15% reduced damage over time. Okay. Alright, I guess that's just a little blight buff thrown in there at the end. Like your... or it could be a Venomous Weave buff. It could be an aspect of the spider thing. It's good for that. So we're going to be like occultist, aspects of the spider occultists are going to be outrageous. New notable, Frigid Wake. Cannot be chilled, cannot be frozen. That's nice. That's really nice. Plus 28% cold damage, overtime multiplier. Every 3 seconds, 20 cold damage, overtime multiplier. Seems like you can get this up to 100% with relative ease, so your cold damage over time is just dealing double damage. Seems like that would be a pretty good thing, because that's a multiplier, right? So... And the cold damage over time multiplier, I'm assuming, stacks additively with itself in just the same way that like a critical strike multiplier would. So you get that up to 100%, your cold damage over time is just doing double what the base number says. And then you start increasing it by regular, just increased cold damage. It's really, really cool. I am super looking forward to this. I think cold damage over time is potentially going to be a little popular this league. A little popular. All right. Every 3 seconds, 25% chance to freeze nearby chilled unique enemies for 0.6 seconds. Nearby chilled unique enemies. Will this work on... This will not work on Guardians, I don't think, according to the rules presently, because they can't be slowed below base movement speed. Or they can't be slowed by 100% or something like that. So this is not going to work on Guardians, which is a bummer, because freeze would mean slowing them below base or slowing them by 100%. Every 3 seconds, freeze nearby chilled non-unique enemies for 0.6 seconds. So every 3 seconds, it's just going to freeze enemies for 0.6 seconds. You know what's really nice is this probably... There's probably a way to increase this freeze duration with, like, freeze duration from somewhere. Increased freeze duration. Nearby chilled enemies deal 10% reduced damage with hits. Yeah, that's really good. I think you might be right on with the whole occultist Arctic Breath deal. Added a small passive leading to Withering Presence, which grants 8% increased maximum energy shield and plus 5% to non-ailment chaos damage over time multiplier. Non-ailment chaos damage over time multiplier. 8% max energy shield. Okay, so occultist is still trying to be ES themed, which is cool. All right, so added a small passive leading to Frigid Wake, which it makes sense because it's a witch ascendancy. Added a small passive leading to Frigid Wake, which grants 8% increased maximum energy shield and plus 5% to cold damage over time multiplier. This is really cool. That means that between this and Frigid Wake, you've just got a 4th more cold damage over time. It's really good. The champion. New notable, Master Metal. 20% chance to impale enemies on hit with attacks. Impales you inflict last 2 additional hits. And if you've impaled an enemy recently, you and nearby allies have plus 1,000 to armor. You and nearby allies deal 4 to 8 added physical damage per impale on the enemy. This is actually going to be really good. Low life occultist Arctic Breath. I don't know. Does Vortex spell damage affect the damage over time? Let's see. Vortex spell damage. Modifiers to spell damage apply to the skill's damage over time effect. So yeah, you want to pick up Pain Attunement. It says modifiers to spell damage, not increases and reductions. You have to be really careful with stuff like that, because if this modifiers were to say instead increases and reductions to spell damage over time, or to spell damage apply to the skill's damage over time effect, then something like Pain Attunement wouldn't apply, because it's not an increase or a reduction, it's a more multiplier. But because this says modifiers to spell damage, modifiers includes a more damage multiplier. Pain Attunement will apply to this skill's damage over time component. So if the new Arctic Breath works the same way as the Vortex damage over time, right, then yeah, that's probably really viable. Let me see. This I'm a huge fan of, this whole impale thing. I hope that they hit bleed at some point in these patch notes, because bleed's really, really hard to work with. I've been trying for a long time to build a character that does a fair amount of bleeding damage. I think you can do it with Lacerate and Crimson Dance without like I think you make a good gladiator, bleed, Lacerate build that stacks up like 8 bleeds real quick and does an absolute crap ton with the bleed itself. But it's hard to do, very hard. I don't think you'd hit even 1 million. You might be able to hit like 800k damage with something like that, but hitting 1 million would be hard. 800k you can do Shaper. You can do Shaper at 800k pretty easily. You can do Shaper with like 200k, but it's hard. 500k is like comfortable. 800k is an okay shaper, and anything over 1 million, anything over 2 million, you just vaporize shaper pretty quickly. It's like his fight will last a couple seconds at that point. If you're good at the fight. Added a small passive leading to Master Metal, 15% evasion armor, 8% increased impale effect. The impale is going to be really powerful. I don't know how powerful, but I think it's going to be really powerful, and it depends on how well I've interpreted the reflect damage mechanic. It sounds like when you hit them, it hits them with what is considered to be reflect damage from you to them, but I have no idea what that means, and it doesn't seem to make any sense. So what is probably happening is I'm interpreting the phrasing incorrectly, and I need to have it explained to me somehow. Inspirational now causes banner skills to reserve no mana. Oh, banner skills reserve mana. That's interesting. I had overlooked that somehow. But that's fine. That makes perfect sense. It's a pretty good effect for reserving mana. Recover 20% of your planted banner stages when you cast a banner. Okay, so the banners have stages, and you recover 1/5 of those stages when you cast a banner while you have a banner planted, and causes you and nearby allies to recover 5%. 0.5% of maximum life per banner stage when you plant the banner. So 0.5 times 20, it's like 1 times 10 is 10%, so 10% max life if you've got 20% banner stages. Wait, that's if there's 20 banner stages. I'll have to see the absolute numbers to know how good that is, I guess. It grants 15%, although it's very possible that banners are now going to be really good for sustain and just going through maps and you just recall banners all the time. And it might actually be decent for banner, might actually be decent for map clear if the banner recall is instant, which I think it is. I guess they put that in there so that monsters that use Impale won't deal extra damage to people who are immune to physical or reflected damage. Ooh, I hadn't thought of that. Actually, I think that you might be onto something there. I'm still not sure that I'm interpreting it correctly, but I hope so. I'm not sure. Are there mobs that are immune to reflected damage? That might also be some kind of weird interaction. It also grants 15% increased effective non-curse auras from your skills. Non-curse auras. Death's Oath. The only aura I've ever given a fuck about. New notable sign of purpose for the Hierophant. Okay. You can cast an additional brand. Enemies take 10% increased damage for each of your brands attached to them. Now see, I don't know how I feel about the whole ascendancies are becoming shoehorned into roles. I don't mind so much when it's like, okay, so the Necromancer one I don't mind because there's lots of different kinds of minions in the game. And having a minion specialty ascendancy is not bad, but it's so overwhelmingly powerful that it's basically like if you're going to run a minion build, you're running Necro. That usually happens. There are the occasional outliers to that, like I've seen some Guardian Hierophants with like Animate Guardian, Animate Weapon, and Elementalist Golemancers are finally kind of a thing. I just don't know how much I like this specialty. It's like, am I going to run a Herald of Agony character, or like, are you going to run a Pathfinder that gets the Herald of Agony node and then not run Herald of Agony? I don't mind it so much when it's minions, brands, totems, etc., because there's lots of options, right? And if you get them, it's like, all right, well, at least you can pick something that aesthetically resonates with the character you're trying to create. But if you pick something like Guardian and then you try to run Herald of Purity, or if you're not running Herald of Purity and you pick Guardian, those notables could feel potentially really awkward, clunky. Okay, let's see. Enemies take 10% increased damage for each brand attached to them. So getting that Ancestral Bond notable is really good. So this 20% increased damage taken. or each brand attached to them, and I think it already has that, so you're talking like 40 or 50% increased damage taken per brand attached. No, not per brand, total when you have like 2 brands attached. Brand recall has 30% increased cooldown recovery speed. That's good, because brand recall, from what I understand, is basically going to be, what is it, invocation? Convocation. It's convocation. Convocation for minion builds. It's going to be basically that. 14% increased brand attachment range. That, like I said, that's going to be an incredibly desirable property. Added a small passive leading to Sign of Purpose, which grants 20% increased mana regeneration rate and 14% increased damage with brand skills. Yeah, sounds like a small passive. Ritual of Awakening no longer grants +1 maximum number of summoned totems. Instead, it now causes skills that would summon a totem to summon 2 totems instead and grants 3% more damage per totem. Alright, Hierophant, I'm going to call it now. Hierophant is now broken. You're going to see, Hierophant was already very powerful, but what you're going to see now happening is you're going to see Hierophant builds that take Ancestral Bond, which gives you +1. Hierophant Siege Ballista is not the new thing, it's Hierophant any totem, because multiple totems gives you +2 max, which puts you at +3. Ancestral Bond gives you +1, putting you at +4. Since this one no longer gives +1, you're sitting at +4. Multiple totem support summons 2 totems at once. And this skill summons 2 totems. I'm wondering if that means that you summon 4 at a time or if you're only going to summon 3. It really depends on how it reads. I'm going to have to read the notable. Double pizza totems. Well, what's going to happen is you're going to be able to summon either 3 or 4 totems at a time. Now, I want to see the multiple totems support gem again real quick before I continue with this. Okay, so we got the multiple totem support, open original. Supported skills have +2 maximum resistance, 2 totems instead of 1. Does that just not stack? Oh, I think that's frustrating now. Okay, yeah, that's probably just not going to stack. So it's just that this, you can get the property from either location. Totem, summon 2 totems instead. This grants 3% more damage per totem. Still, I think Hierophant totems are going to be incredibly powerful because what you want is to be able to cast twice and end up at 4 totems. So even though they don't stack, I think that pushing your totem number up to 4 in order to quickly place down 4 totems and then move on, that's going to be really powerful. You were talking really powerful, I didn't think. I think this is just a straight up buff to Hierophants. Just in terms of the quality of life and their quality of life and their clear speed. And Hierophants were already really good. Hierophant totem builds were already able to push like 600 delves. They were already able to do end game content on budget gear, strictly speaking. All right, let's see. Yeah, that's really good. Some Hierophant builds, guys. Item balance. Molten Strike Labyrinth Helmet enchantment now grants 1 additional projectile down from 2 and 2 projectiles from the Eternal down from 3. These little incremental changes to helmet enchants are not going to do it, guys. If the guys at GGG ever see this video, this is not going to solve your problem. Helmet enchants suck. They're just fundamentally bad. Don't worry, it's going to be dead. It's going to be dead. Alright, Tectonic Slam Labyrinth enchant now grants increased chance to charge slam rather than granting a chance to consume an endurance charge at half the original enchantment's value. Okay. Disabled Ice Spear Labyrinth Helm enchantments that increase the damage dealt by Ice Spear existing items with this enchantment will go unchanged. So are they going to remove all the damage helmet enchants, I'm guessing? Disabled the helmet enchant that increase the base radius of Vortex. Existing items with this enchant will go unchanged. So those going Legacy is really important. For anybody running in the standard economy, those are now very valuable. Items exclusive to the Shaper, Guardians, and the Elder Guardians now drop less frequently. I don't know if that's the way to fix that. Alright, whatever. Uniques exclusive to the Elder Guardians now also drop based on map tier, with some items unable to drop until higher map tiers. You know, I don't mind that change, but it kind of feels bad coming from the old system. Shaper and Elder items, I don't think that, I mean, that doesn't mean they shouldn't have made the change, it's just a comment. Shaper and Elder items and jewels can now gain mods that affect non-ailment chaos damage over time multiplier and cold damage over time multiplier. Okay, so that's 2. There really needs to be a comma after Shaper and Elder items. Because I parsed it as Shaper and Elder items and jewels, and I was like, Shaper jewels? Excuse me? So Shaper and Elder items and jewels can now gain mods that affect the 2 damage over time multipliers, which is really good. Ruby, Sapphire, and Topaz flasks no longer grant added maximum resistance. I'm sorry, I'm still parsing the last one there. The chaos damage over time stuff and the cold damage over time multiplier stuff is powerful stuff. That's basically taking Crit Multi and turning it into something that affects DOTs, non-ailment DOTs, which have always been a pet, just a close pet of mine. I like them. So we're going to see if there's got to be something good we can do with those this league for sure. Ruby, Sapphire, and Topaz flasks no longer grant added maximum resistance. Instead, they each... Well, we knew they were going to kill this. Instead, they each reduce the damage taken of their respective elements by 20%. That is so much better. That is just... That's a better solution. I mean, seriously. So if you got 25%, say that you're taking 25% Lore Weave buff. Is there a Lore Weave buff coming up, or are you claiming that this is a Lore Weave buff? So let me think about this, right? So before you had, what, plus 6%? Let's see, like Ruby Flask, right? So you got plus 6% maximum resistance. So out of a remaining 25%, right? So Lore Weave puts you up to let's give a generous. Lore Weave sets you to 81, let's say, right? Then out of the remaining 19%, 6% is how much of that? 6 goes into 19, 6, 12, 18, 3 times, so 33% damage reduction. So, I mean, you can use them with it now, right? So, you could, because you couldn't alter your max res before. So yeah, it does make sense. It is a Lore Weave buff to an extent. I wonder if people will run these with it, actually. Probably. I hope they nerf Lore Weave in this patch. They gotta nerf Lore Weave in this patch. So I prefer this a lot, because what's gonna happen is, like, you're saying it's gonna be 20% versus, like, what before would have been the first time you use it, so was just over 20%, right? So, because you have a remaining 25%, and 6 would go into that just about, what, like 5 times? 6, 12, 24. 4 times, and then some. So it's a little bit of a buff to these kind of flasks for the average character, but it really shits on the characters trying to achieve damage immunity. It's a buff for general use cases for these flasks, and a nerf, a really harsh nerf for characters trying to achieve really, really high percentage elemental resistance, like absurdly high. We're talking like damage immunity type stuff, or very close there too. The Shaper weapon mods, which cause you to gain a portion of physical damage as extra cold, fire, or lightning damage, or extra damage of a random element, grant half as much extra damage. Amulets are unaffected by this change, and this does not affect existing items. Maybe I should buy one of those before they hit standard. Existing versions can be upgraded to these new values with a Divine Orb. Updated. I heard upgraded. I was like, that's stupid, but updated. Amulets are unaffected. Half as much extra damage. I really want to update mine. Okay. So, I got 3 you can have for standard. Sure. That's actually cool. I appreciate that. I like to just have stuff like that to mess with in standard. The Dying Anguish Divination card can no longer drop. Dying Anguish. Dying Anguish. Level 19 skill gem. Can no longer drop. It will return in the future with some modifications. Alright. Thanks. Not sure why. What was broken about that? Somebody help me. Okay, so alright, I'm just trying to take all this in. Aegis Aurora now has 300 to 400% up from 80 to 100% increased armor and energy shield. Existing versions can be updated to these new values of the Divine Orb. I think I have a couple of these in standard that I will definitely be updating because I have plenty of Divine Orbs and Tabula Rasas. They just wanted to change it but ran out of time, I guess so. I don't fucking know, dude. New versions of Oxia. This is really good. Aegis Aurora is now going to be a usable item. In fact, you're going to see it run on a lot of builds. And there's definitely going to be at least one popular build out there that's going to go Gladiator or Aegis Aurora. There's got to be at this point. With the new EB changes too, you're going to see some weird stuff going on with that, I think. It might not be a synergy that exists, but I'd be interested in looking at interactions between the two of them. Shields are going to be good with the new dual wielding changes. Have I hit the new dual wielding changes yet? I don't know if I don't even remember what I've hit. New versions of Oxium no longer have 10 to 20% increased elemental damage and attack skills. Thank God, because that felt really out of place on Oxium. They now have 20 to 25% increased elemental damage with attack skills per power charge. Why? It feels stupid to have the elemental damage there anyway. Chill and Freeze is now based on 100%. Up from 65% of Energy Shield. Thank you. You can update existing versions of Oxium to new values for this mod, only with a Divine Orb. For this mod only. Okay. Man. Can we get some parentheses around this to make this a little clearer? Or like just some M dashes or something? Crown of Eyes now cause you to leech from all types of attack damage. Crown of Eyes is back, baby. Not just physical attack damage, this affects all versions of the item. So between COC buffs and this Crown of Ice change, you think Crown of Ice COC is back? It might be back. It's not as good as it used to be, but it could definitely be back. Could definitely stand to roll over in its grave. Do the zombie flick thing where it's reach the hand up out of the ground. I'm Crown of Eyes now. Cloak of Defiance now has 300 to 400%, up from 110 to 150%. Increased evasion, energy shield. Wow, they are really going hard on these ES items. That's cool. Existing versions can be updated to these new values with the Divine Orb. Oh, you know, just 3 times as much, it's fine. Mjolnir's trigger now has a cooldown of 150 ms, down from 250. I'm thinking charged, I'm thinking Static Strike Mjolnir, man. I was playing around with Static Strike Mjolnir thinking it was just a little too weak, a little too wimpy last week. This is good though. This is what? How many more? So that's what? 10, 150 ms, so 0.15, right? So calculator, if we do 0.15 seconds, so does it say that we have like 10 divided by 0.15 seconds? What are we? 66 again? Okay, that's fine. So it's just being updated with the COC stuff. It's the exact same thing. So yeah, you can get a lot of triggers off of Mjolnir over the course of a couple of seconds. That's going to be pretty good, I think. That could potentially be really good. It hits every time that Static Strike hits. Here's Ire now adds... Wow. Hiri's Ire now adds your entire base damage from practically nothing. Hiri's Ire now gives you more than an added cold damage gem? Added cold damage. 169 to 254. 173 to 262. Hiri's Ire now gives you added cold to attacks with bows. I'm broken. I wanted this to be cool. Why is it with bows? It no longer adds cold damage to all attacks. Had the same reaction, get real excited, get real sad. That's... Isn't there like Nero's Harp or something? There we go, Nero. I was trying to remember how to spell Nero. Nero's Harp, to create chilled ground when you freeze an enemy. So isn't there a thing, the damage multiplier, enemies on chilled ground, isn't that the new brittle bone thing, chilled bone, can't remember the name of it, support gem. Can you use like a Nero's Harp build now? Can we try to bring this item into the meta? Nah, just make it viable even. What do you think about Sunder in 3.5? Have I seen Sunder in 3.5 yet? Let's see, hold on. Sunder, character balance. As a result of this, Sunder are no longer main hand only. I think that's the only thing I've read. That's the only thing in the entire patch. Sunder is going to be exactly what it was in every other league. That is my conclusion. Sunder really hasn't received any changes. Other than that, it's no longer main hand only, I guess. So there's that. Okay, so we're on Hiri's Ire here. We've got no longer adds cold damage to all attacks. That didn't have to be bows only, man. Sunder can't have stat stick, can't do LE stat sticks. I mean, yeah, but like starter Sunder builds were often just these two-hander monsters that just got high fizz, right? Well, not even high fizz, but you do like hatred. You'd scale your hard single hits. But I mean, I guess if you're looking to scale into like dual wielding madness late game, then yeah, you might want to be careful about anything that used a stat stick. As a general rule, if your build was using a stat stick, stay away from it. They've had their damage halved, and then a lot of skills just don't function the same way with them. Like your attacks that wouldn't alternate before are now going to be either disabled, so you're going to have to use a stat stick that you're alternating with or something. It's going to be really... I'm not going to touch it until I see somebody else do it well. And even then, I never liked those builds to begin with. But, I mean, Sunder has been good since before stat sticks. So, Sunder is back to its original place in the hierarchy of abilities, as far as I can tell. Carcass Jack now grants 40 to 50%, up from 20% increased area of effect. This is fucking awesome. I'm so excited. If existing versions can be updated to these new values with Divine Orb. Man, what can you do with Carcass Jack now? That's actually... That's huge. Maybe a Vol Ground Slam build? That's always what I try to do. I don't know though. This is powerful as well. It seems like a lot of underused Crown of Eyes, Aegis Aurora, Cloak of Defiance. So these are tier 1 rares. Sorry, tier 1 unique rarity items. T1 rarity unique items seem to be getting buffs so far. Yeah, new version of Bringer of Rain. So we are continuing in the same trend. Now support socketed skills with level 18 blind and faster attack. Pizza Totems, a spell cascade, man. Spell cascade, summon 4 totems and let them all stack up. Stacking pizza rings. You got it. New version of Bringer of Rain now supports socketed skills, level 18 blind and faster attacks. This change also affects very, very old versions of Bringer of Rain, for which these were the original support levels. A Divine Orb will not update existing items to these new values. However, it will update the life values on Bringer of Rain to the new values of 200 to 220, up from 120 to 160 life. That's actually a really cool Bringer of Rain buff. So what was the... Let me see... Let me see what we're... Okay. So blind was... So it's 18s across the board now. Like it did used to be this at one point, didn't it? 18, 12, 6, 18, 18, 18. Alright, so yeah, it's basically, they're giving us back old Bringer of Rain. They were like, Bringer of Rain is too powerful, nerf it. And then everything else in the game caught up and they're like, Bringer of Rain seems shitty now. Bring it back. Yeah, they just reverted it to 1.1. Durrani's Fists now add down. No. Why? 2 unarmed attacks and... Okay, so more damage to spells. This means that potentially my Lightning Fireball Elementalist, it could be real. It's still more Godfist. It's still more. The Doriani's Touch skill granted by Doriani's now hit up to 50 enemies per skill use, up from 20, has 20% more area of effect, now costs 8 mana instead of 28, and can no longer be evaded. Whew. So that's what it's for now, though. I don't like that. I wanted it to be slightly more versatile. I was actually always pissed that they didn't allow it to be used with Static Strike. It now has 50% less attack speed, down from 30%. Come on, you can't use that wording. 50% less attack speed, down from 30%. You mean up from 30%? This is not a buff? Wait. Yeah, this is not a buff. Come on, 600% added damage effectiveness, up from 350%. Okay, so... if we're talking like before, let's just say like max values here. We got 900 times 3.5. That's 3,150. Now we have 600 times 6. It's 3,600. So there's a little bit more average damage. All right. That's probably what it pans out to be. Is it's more if you're using Doriani's. It's more if you're using Touch of God or whatever. Now converts all physical to lightning, up from 50. Alright, fine. That's a real item. It's just a real item, and you only really get one skill out of it. But you know what? It might actually be cool to have, like, because you can almost use it on anything now, right? Like, you put it on there just for, like, I want to punch bosses, because you basically don't need to you don't need to invest anything in that, do you? It doesn't have to be down from converts all physical damage to lightning. Converts all physical damage to lightning. So you're talking about, like, for EK, basically? I don't know. The fact that you can use Doriani's fist, or yeah, the fact that you can use the Doriani's touch ability, that it can't be evaded. So you don't have to build RT, and you can still, you can drop like Orb of Storms to proc Elemental Overload, because you're probably a witch for no reason, or even a Templar, and just building the minion wheel that, well, I don't know if they've changed it. And then you just run Doriani's Fist, and you're doing an absolute metric fuck ton per hit to a boss. It's a slow attack, though, which is a huge bummer. I don't know how to feel about those changes there. It feels like it's more, it feels like it's more shoehorned into being one thing. Lionized Vision now has Dexterity requirement of 160. Lionized Vision is that, in addition to the ordinary strength requirement, this does not affect existing versions. That's not Lionized Vision? I have to remind myself which one that is. It's the Crusader play. Oh, okay, it's the grids. Yeah. Wait, it looks like it's just, what is this? It's the Pierce one? Enemy projectiles pierce you? Okay, whatever. Whatever, this item is so stupid, I don't care. How many people actually used that ever? Dresses Defiance now grants Onslaught from 4-5, up from 2 seconds. Okay, seconds per endurance charge when hit. Onslaught per endurance charge when hit. Okay. And 60 to 90, up from 40 to 60 life. That's better. Existing versions can be updated to these values of Divine or maneuver against 60 to 100% increased onslaught effect. Oh, that's good. Okay, so you get like a 10-second, 15-second onslaught when you're hit if you've got 3 endurance charges, and your onslaught's double effective. So I'm seeing this maybe being a raider thing. Like, maybe somebody will do like a raider Tectonic Slam or something. And with like the Delve Rings. I don't know. It's cool though. I like it. I like that change. Malachi's Artifice no longer has reduced elemental equilibrium effect. That's good. It means that you can put a golem in there, and if it hits lots of things, it puts elemental equilibrium on them for you, and it's just full equilibrium effect. That's pretty good. Dwaydra's Skin, and it was a system change, so you don't even have to divine your item. Dwaydra's Skin no longer reduces the effect of your curses. You can use Divine Orb to remove this on existing versions. This is fucking cool, because Dwaydra's Effigy is such a hard thing to use. Let me see. Curses in Dwaydra's now 25%. Curses socketed. No longer reduce the effect of your curses. Curses. Ah, they just moved the reduced curse effect? She's now instant and has a 0.5 second cooldown. You have up to 3 effigies at once. I don't know. I actually think the fact that this is now instant and that you can have 3 effigies at once is gonna make this. Curse supports might actually use this a little more often, but otherwise I don't see this being a problem. It's gonna be okay. I think that's a buff. I'm gonna go on a limb and say overall it's a buff. Okay, so curses that you're running yourself, like your own personal blasphemy course, curses aren't affected by that, and Doager's FG is just better. That's fine, actually. Yeah, that's pretty good. I like that. That's way better. I'm going to say that's actually a buff. Extractor Mentis now has 10% up from 5% chance to gain Unholy Might for 10 seconds, up from 3 seconds on kill, and 10% up from 5% chance to gain Onslaught for 10, up from 4 seconds on kill. Existing versions can be updated to the new one with the Divine Orb. This might actually see some use now. If you want both Unholy Might and Onslaught on a character for map clear, I could see people running Extractor Mentis for that reason. It's actually... Oops. For 1% your maximum life on kill. It's really reliable now. It was probably reliable before, but now it's basically guaranteed. You blow up a pack, you've got both. You're gonna end up having both of those buffs, which is cool. Shade of Solaris now grants 200% up for 150. Increase spell damage if you dealt a critical strike in the past 8 seconds rather than recently. Shade of Solaris. I don't even know what that is. Shade of Solaris. It's kind of bad. Isn't it kind of bad? Light of Lunaris. Okay. Yeah, probably Light of Lunaris has it as well. I don't know, dude. It's not great. The Brine Crown now has 240%. Up from 100 to 120%. It's a lot. Increased armor and energy shield. So they're giving this kind of ubiquitous huge buff to the absolute energy shield numbers of energy shield uniques. Now grants 80 to 100 up from 50 to 70 life. Okay, that's good. 1500 up from 800 armor while stationary. Also good. Existing versions of this item can be updated. That's good. New versions will also grant 5% reduced cold damage taken. Well, I mean, taste of 8 characters. This might actually be viable to use, right? This could be the Brine Crown, right? Of course. Brine Crown. Mana regen while stationary. Yeah, you know what? I could see this being an okay piece now. It's going to give a really significant... Like, what is this? Triple? Almost? 300% up from 120? So yeah, the energy shield, the max amount of energy shield you can get from this is going to be like, I don't know, 200 or something. Cannot be frozen, 1500 armor while stationary. 5% reduced damage taken from cold if you got a Taste of Hate. That could be okay. 196-ish, alright. Light of Lunaris now has 475 to 600. Up from 100 to 140% increased energy shield. Okay. That's pretty big. 6 to 10 up to 5% additional chance to block existing. Okay, so increasing the chance to block on individual items, I think, is a good solution to this whole block fiasco that they're currently messing with. Will also grant 35 to 39 to 54 to 60 added cold damage to spells. That item's actually going to be... I don't know, it's not going to be T1 or anything, but at least it might see some use now. What else does it do? Crit multi per 1% chance to block attack damage. That's not bad. Crit multi if you've dealt a non-crit strike recently. Okay, so it's one of those where like you run it if you're like one of those Orbostorm's Elemental Overload builds. Maybe it's a consideration now. I don't know. Gruthkul's Pelt change. Hold on, I have to get through this first. Arkali's Fang now has a 100% up from 20% chance on kill to trigger Raised Spider. Excuse me? You just turn mobs into spiders? I can't use this weapon because I hate spiders, but somebody should. This affects all versions of the items, and will still say the skill has a 20% chance to trigger on kill, although existing items will still say. What? Why? Wait. This affects all versions of the item, though existing items will still say the skill has 20% chance to trigger on kill, because we are grinding gear games, and Lightning Warp moves the unmoving. I don't understand this. Why wouldn't you just update the old text? Why would you ever do this to people? Okay, that's whatever. Let's just move on. The Raised Spider skill triggered by this item has undergone the following changes. Adjusted visual and audio effect of Raised Spider skills. Raised Spiders now has a 2-second cooldown. Wait, it has a 2-second cooldown? We hate fun. You're playing with my emotions. 100% chance to trigger and kill. The Raised Spider skill now has 100% more movement speed, a longer attack range, and a base duration of 30 seconds, but you only get one every 2 seconds. Deal 33% more damage and always apply poison non-hit, but you only get one every 2 seconds. They can no longer leap. Raised Spiders are now level 75 instead of the level of the area you are in, and are immune to damage, although you only get one every 2 seconds. For each Raised Spider, you now gain 2% increased attack speed, 12% increased damage with poison. But guess what, guys? You only get one every 2 seconds. How long? 30 seconds? So you can have 15 spiders, but you can only have them for 2 seconds, because then the next one is gonna disappear in 2 seconds. Ugh. I don't know. I was really, maybe this is going to be super cool, and running around with 15 spiders that are awesome is going to be really fun. That might be super cool. It feels a little bit more auxiliary than what I was like, oh yeah, nice. Now you just spawn an army of spiders and kill everything on the map. But you know what? It actually probably is going to be pretty okay utility or whatever. Gruthkul's Pelt, hold on. Alright, I've been waiting for this. Did you know Gruthkul's Pelt? So there's the Essence of Insanity. The Essence of Insanity essence that gives you Spectral Spirits. If you have the Spectral Spirits that just hang out, you don't have to cast them or anything. If you're using one of those weapons, and you put on Gruthkul's Pelt, those minions just disappear because Gruthkul's Pelt disables them. I didn't know that. Gruthkul's Pelt, I was sitting on my ass for like a month straight trying to figure out how the fuck do you use Gruthkul's Pelt for anything useful, and it's basically you have to like bend yourself into a pretzel to make Gruthkul's Pelt the best armor for a character to be wearing. Like, you have to design a character so completely backwards that Gruthkul's Pelt fits that character and only that character, and that character fits Gruthkul's Pelt, and that's like the contortion involved, and you're running so suboptimally at that point. It's a nightmare. Anyway, please, I'm feeling like the Hunger Games here. Alright, let's go. What do we got? Gruthkul's Pelt now grants 200 to 240, up from 130 to 160 life. That is an absolutely ridiculous amount of life. And 5% up from 2% life regenerated per second. That is an absolutely ridiculous amount of life per second. It no longer has range on global physical damage, and instead grants 100%. Existing versions of this item can be updated. Alright, that's a lot. That's a lot. 240 life and 5% life regenerated per second is actually a lot of... That's a lot of value. And then just no range on this anymore. Maybe this is usable now. It's still gonna suck to build around. But I might try. Give it a try this league, maybe. Garukan's Flight. Garukan's Flight, maybe, okay. 320 to 380, up from 80 to 120 evasion rating. Alright, let's just see what this is, because I don't know. Okay, so it's K-H-A-N. Garukan's Flight. Garukan. I mean, burning, shocked ground, and chilled ground. 100 life regen per second while moving. 100 life regen per second is actually not so bad. But these kind of look pretty silly. So let's see if there's anything else. Now grants 2 up from 1 life per 10 dex. Okay, that's good. Existing versions can be updated. You can get, what do you got for dex on high dex builds? Like 2,000? 2,000 per 10 dex? That's, is that if you're 2,000 divided by 10 would be 200, right? It's 200 times 2, 400 life on boots. If you add one of those crazy dex stacking builds, I guess. Tidebreaker now has 70 to 80 to 340 to 374, up from 60 to 70, 300 to 350. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. The PDPS on the highest value Tidebreaker is actually pretty good now. Not great. Not T1 rare item good, but decent. The fact that it lost its it lost something recently, I can't remember. Oh, it lost the fact that you can't corrupt it anymore to have like endurance charge on melee stun, so it feels so bad. Siege ballista builds. For the boots, Garukan's Flight. Yep, I can see that. Because the dex does something with Siege Ballista, right? Martyr of Innocence, increased fire damage is no longer conditional. Now grants 230 to 250 to 300 to 350, up from 130 to 350. I wonder if AJ's fire build, AJ's Righteous Fire Martyr of Innocence build is going to be good now. Up from 130 to 350, so they increased the minimum here by a significant amount. 300 to 350 at the most instead of 200 to 250. Yeah, that's good. That's the minimum, came up by 100. Added fire damage to spells. Ooh. Existing versions can be updated to these new values with Divine Orb. There's Lotha's Coil, now grants 80 to 100 life, 30 to 40%, up from 20%, less minimum damage, and 30 to 40%, up from 20% more maximum damage. So you get a 40-40 on that? 40% less minimum damage, 40% increased maximum damage, so you're the wild card. Existing versions can be updated. I mean, I guess you'd want a 30-40 if you were looking to optimize a build, but still, if you're wearing this, maybe your memes. Who knows? Less minimum damage, more maximum damage. Does it say physical? I'm just reading damage here. Dusk Dawn now grants 120 to 150%, up from 120%. Increased spell damage if you dealt a crit recently. It now has a plus 10% chance to block. Okay, that's fine. Existing versions can be updated to these new values with the Divine Orb. Alright. Leper's Alms now has 500 to 600, up from, just 6 times as much. Leper's Alms, what is this thing? Mirrored spike shield. Oh yeah, this thing. I was looking at this. Shared suffering. What does shared suffering do? Shared suffering's just it reflects ailments. So all damage, ailments you are suffering will cause ailments you are suffering. Okay. Elemental ailments you inflict are removed from you. I don't understand why you would want that, I guess. You're just passing ailments back and forth. You're like, if you're going up against something that gives you an ailment, you put it back on them. Take it off you, whatever's... I'm rubber, you're glue, that kind of thing. Existing versions can be updated, these new values. Grailwood Shank now has more increased physical damage. It's got a buff. Existing versions can be updated, that's okay. Bell Timber Blade also got a buff. Arborix now has higher damage values up. Okay, the Arborix, was that a bow? Arborix. Assassin bow. Yeah. So it's gonna have some pretty significant damage. Is this the 3.5 version right here? No. Arborix. 240 to 265. Excuse me? This is 322 to 358. I don't understand. Is it just wrong? Oh, added fizz. Okay, so it's this number right here. Yep. Yeah, I was just getting there. It's like I was like, what am I looking at that's wrong? That's cool. So it's gonna do a really significant amount of damage, which is nice. It's got far shot, right? Something like that. You have iron reflexes, 30% more damage of the arrows hit at close range while you have iron reflexes. I imagine this bow is going to be used on really niche builds now, which is cool. Might have already been being used. New versions of the Auguire now grant 100% increased physical damage while you have Resolute Technique. Gotta see it. Auguire, something like that. Your Resolute Technique will you do not have Elemental Overload. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Volcanus no longer has added fire damage against bleeding enemies or added physical damage against ignited enemies. So, sorry, what they're trying to do with the Auguire, I guess, is actually encourage or incentivize players to use the swapping thing, which nobody seems to like. Because I think like it's pretty easy to get increased. Would increased skill effect duration even affect that? I don't know. If you could get increased buff duration, you would eventually push yourself to having overload up 100% of the time, I guess. I don't know if there's anything in the game to do that right now. But they're trying to push it to have RT half the time, and you have RT while you do not have LE overload. Guess you could just spec LE overload with this weapon and then ignore half of it, convert your damage to lightning. Yeah, it would be super dumb and totally pointless. Volcanus no longer has added fire damage against bleeding enemies or added physical damage against ignited enemies. It no longer has a chance to inflict bleeding against ignited enemies. It now has 130 to 160 to 220 to 240 added fire damage and 85 to 110 to 130 to 150 added fizz. Now grants 70 to 100% increased fire damage versus bleeding enemies and 70 to 100% increased fizz damage versus ignited enemies. So you want everything to be burning and bleeding. Now has 50% chance to inflict bleeding. It now grants 160 to 200%, up from 80 to 20% increased chance to critically strike while you have Avatar of Fire. And 2,000 up from 1,000 armor while you do not have Avatar of Fire. Existing versions can be updated to these new values with a Divine Orb. It sounds to me like that weapon is now better. Excuse me. I think the Volcanus is now significantly better, but alright, that's what? Volcanus, right? Yeah, that's what I did wrong. Volcanus. Volcanus. Oh my goodness. Alright, there we go. Demon Dagger. Attacks with Whip. Okay, yeah, okay. So instead of all this flat shit, it's just increased damage versus those enemies with those ailments and a bunch of flat, unconditional damage. Makes the weapon a little bit easier to parse from a new player standpoint. And 2,000 armor while you have Avatar of Fire is pretty good. 2,000 armor is just pretty good. 2,000 armor is pretty good. Just for having Avatar of Fire. I don't know if that weapon will be really good or anything like that, but it's definitely better than it was. And easier for new players to understand, and I like that. Razor the Seventh Son now has 90 to 110, to 145, 170, up from 65%. Okay, cool. So, you know, it's cool that they're bringing a lot of these, I think, up to try to compete with rare weapons. Now grants 25% chance to ignite and 25% physical damage converted to fire. That's cool. I like that change. Obscurantis. I like uniques being powerful. Not always best in slot for every build, and I like the tippity top end rares have gotten so crazy that they actually have to do this sort of thing where they modify a bunch of uniques to catch up. But I'm enjoying all the changes so far. Obscurantis, thankfully. Let's see if this dumb thing is usable now. Now grants 800 to 1,000, up from 300 to 500 accuracy rating. That's a lot of accuracy rating. 1,000 accuracy rating is not bad. It's on par with Inokora's now. Maybe it'll see use. I still doubt it. Snake Pit no longer causes your spells to fire an additional projectile. Instead, it now causes projectiles. Oh yeah. We saw this change. It now, it's like a Frostblade's weapon or something, isn't it? Like a Frostblade ring. Instead, it now causes projectiles from spells. Oh, it's from spells? Okay. To fork, but prevents them from chaining. While in the left ring slot, it +1 to projectiles from spells, but prevents them from forking. While in the right slot, Snake Pit now prevents spells from piercing. So this is like, if you really wanted to experience a freezing pulse that behaved differently, I bet you can do it with Snake Pit. You can do Snake Pit, and you can throw out freezing pulses that probably won't pierce, and instead they will chain, which is weird because they're kind of AoE-ish, so who knows? Or maybe not even, I don't know. Like, I bet it will be good with it might be good anyway with like Frostbolt or whatever. Silver Tongue no longer causes arrows to pierce all targets after chaining, or arrows that pierce to inflict bleeding. Now causes arrows to pierce all targets after forking. Pierce all targets after chaining. Pierce all targets after forking. It now grants arrows that fork, increase crit strike, and arrows that pierce plus 50%. Silver Tongue now has. So what was the priority again? I think it's like things will first fork, then chain, then pierce, I thought? I don't know. So that would be a buff. I think it's fork, chain, pierce. FCP, yep. So what that means is that this is probably a buff. 50% multiplier after pierce. So at the final stage, and it's got, they brought up the damage, right? Yep, existing versions can be updated. Yep, reach the council no longer grants 2 additional arrows. It now has 50 to 75, up from 40 to 50% increased physical damage, and supports socketed gems level 20 greater volley. I'm actually really excited to see what this, like, I don't even know, we don't know what greater volley is. Assuming it's volley with more projectiles, right? So this could potentially be really good. This could be a really unique bow, and I'm really happy to see that they're doing something weird like that. It also is potentially a 7 link, right? So that could potentially be pretty powerful. We'll see how it goes, but I'm excited for it. Excited to see something interesting happen with that bow. Void Gaze skill granted by Eber's Unification now reduces enemy chaos resistance by 20. That's up from 10, right? Right? I think. Alright, let's find out. Yeah, it's up from 10. Okay. This affects all versions of the item. As a base range of 39, up from 26, now correctly scales its effect to the range. It now lasts 10 seconds, up from 2.5, and a cooldown of 2 seconds from 3. This affects all versions of the items. Ever's Unification now has 150 to 180. Well, it's a Death's Oath league for sure, right? Void Gaze is feeling pretty good. This is a desirable helmet for like a Blight Death's Oath character or whatever. It already was, and now it's even better. Void Fletcher now grants a void charge every 500 ms instead of every 1 second. That's cool. This might be interesting. I didn't really see this used all that much in Delve. I was paying attention to PoE Ninja. I didn't see it used very frequently, so this is probably cool if this gets a buff. Void Shot has been... The cooldown on Void Shot has been reduced from 500 ms to 250 ms. Void Shot now travels and explodes 50% faster and deals 100% more area damage, up from 50, and has added damage effectiveness of 120%, up from 100. This affects all versions of the item. Yeah, I'm guessing this is going to see some use. I don't know how, but it's already tempting to me, just based on the changes to those numbers. Queen of the Forest now grants 1% increased movement speed per 600. Up from 450, so it's even harder to cap out Queen of the Forest. They're really trying hard to get this to a place where only really, really, really high evasion characters can use this, I think. Up to 75, down from 100%. This affects all versions of the item. Yeah, so a nerf to Queen of the Forest movement speed yet again, which I'm not surprised by, and I'm not disappointed by. I think that's a good change to the game. The Queen of the Forest is far too ubiquitizing. If they're going to indulge the community's tendency to funnel themselves into this clear speed meta and that kind of mentality that gets built up in the community, then I think that nerfing Queen of the Forest is a good way to level the playing field, because players want to play characters that resonate with them. And if you're running at like a tenth of the speed of somebody next to you, it kind of feels bad. Like psychology, like neighbor psychology. You're looking at the guy next to you and he's doing 10 times what you're doing in the same amount of time, and it's not because he's playing better, it's his character's 10 times faster. And so this was one of the bigger problems in the game, holding that up. And I think the more that they nerf this, the shallower the difference will be. Like, Queen of the Forest characters are still going to run faster than other characters, but that's always true. It's just that they needed to get it to a place where the difference between a character with unmodified Queen of the Forest movement speed and a character with Quaff is not going to be so bad. It's not going to feel so bad, is really what it is. Impulse's Broken Heart. Ooh, impulses, broken hearts. Shocked enemies you kill explode, dealing 5%. Which kind of shock no longer has a range of 5 to 10 and is now set to 5. Ha! Alright, those were two really, really popular armors that got nerfed. We'll see how the numbers pan out on that. I'm not sure that that's enough of a nerf. I'm not sure that 10% impulses was the only reason that impulses was so popular. I think even a 5% impulses will still be popular. But we'll see. Maybe it will be enough to push people off of it to use some... I don't know. I don't have numbers. I didn't ask thousands of people. If you could only have a 5% impulses, which would you use? An impulses or not an impulses? So you'd have to figure that out, but we'll see. Maybe this will push people away from impulses. Sintrek now has 100 to 150, down from 100 to 160 energy shield. Sintrek were really good though. This 10 ES nerf feels, I don't know, this feels Riot Games to me. This feels like a weird minimal tweak, and I don't like tweaks like that. Because, like, really, are you going to persuade somebody that was going to use Sintreks to not use Sintreks for this reason? Or did you just make the guy who was going to use Sintreks feel slightly bad by making this change? Sintreks were really good, though. To be fair, they were a really good option if you're an ES character for boots. I'm not even sure they needed the nerf. Well, we'll see. We'll see. They were pretty popular on those kind of builds. Sunima's Touch now increases the quantity of items found from slain enemies by 5 to 10%. Down from 12 to 16%. More quantity nerfs? Alright. Existing versions can be updated to these new values with a Divine Orb. Indigon now grants 20 to 25%, down from 50 to 60% increased spell damage for each 200 total mana you have spent. Existing versions can be updated. All versions are now up to a maximum of 2000%. This is still so much. This is so much damage. But it's a slower ramp now for sure. I think this might fuck with my... All versions of the item are now affected by the cap. This might fuck with my desire to do like an Omeacon's Indigon Poet's Pen Lightning Warp arc character with Power Siphon. I might not want to do that anymore. It was already one of those builds where I was like, maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't. It's still good for sure, yeah. But hopefully it's not ubiquitizing now. Hopefully it doesn't pull people away from other builds because it's so polarizingly powerful. Hopefully that helps. Cool Rain now causes you to deal 40% less damage as opposed to weapon damage. No! Toxic Rainers are dead. They're not dead. It's not true. But Quill Rain, Toxic Rain is now less... Yeah, they had to do it for COC changes for sure. But it's gonna adversely affect Toxic Rain in a really powerful way, right? It's 40% less damage is gonna apply to... It's gonna apply to everything. So Wind Ripper now has 30 to 40% down from 60 to 80% increased critical strike chance. The Wind Ripper nerfs. They really want to nerf this really popular quantity farming strategy because people have this like psychological need to optimize in a game like Path of Exile because it's kind of a loot simulator ARPG type thing, right? And so you put a mechanic like item quantity in the game and people are super drawn to the most optimal way to run item quantity and the most optimal map. And it's this one thing and it's kind of silly, and you see it all the time with like a headhunter and a Queen of the Forest, and they've got like 2 pariah rings or 2 venters, and they've got a Wind Ripper and a distillate, and they're just so balanced, and it's like it really seems like they want to stop people from doing it. They want to make that feel bad enough. Like, they want it to still obviously be better for magic finding than a normal character, but they want it to feel bad enough that they're putting people off of it. Waifu gate strats, yeah. Nerf Daryl. Well, that it does seem like they want it. It's just the let me see, 48 to up from. Okay, so it's got more cold damage, more added cold damage by a little bit, and 1, 2. So it's got more flat damages, but less crit. That's a pretty decent nerf to the crit, man. Like, cause that's the weapon's base crit. That's what's multiplying the weapon's base crit, right? It's still that freeze that causes the quant. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Is it's like it's still a nerf to the bow, even if it's got more flat. Chin Soul now just 50% down from 100% more. Oh, I liked Chin Soul. Chin Soul was cool. I guess a lot of people were using it to boss though, and just to boss. And I'm sad that this nerf seems probably justified in my opinion. But I liked the weapon so much. So with arrowheads at close range, and has 200 to 260, up from 150 to 180% increased fizz damage. I don't know how to feel about this. Okay, so it's still very good. Just the multiplicative element of it is worse-ish, because this is base damage, right? This is affecting the weapon's local damage, so that's like 50% more. No, it's not. It's like they gave it 25% of the damage to local damage, and they said, well, this number has to come down. They took 50% off of that. Okay, that's I don't know. You're gonna have to see how that pans out. I have to ask some people who use Ginsel. Divination Distillate no longer provides additional maximum resistance during flask effect, and instead provides plus 50% to all elemental resistance during flask effect. That's really good. No, it's really bad. I don't know what to think about this. No, this is just a nerf. Existing divination distillates are not affected. Yeah, this is just a nerf. I thought it said fit, like, my brain immediately, because when you wipe maximum resistances off of an item, they're balancing for bossing potentially because they're making it easier to weapon swap. Yeah, they're making it way easier to weapon swap. From if I understand them correctly, you can actually like macro a movement skill now, so that when you press your movement skill, you just like weapon swap, move, and then weapon swap back. Maybe that's even possible. I don't know. That would be crazy. But I really parsed this immediately as like 50% reduced elemental damage taken. Unfortunately, it's not. But so Distillate's kind of dead now. Distillate's kind of dead. Outside of magic finding in standard, this is gonna, the Wind Ripper MFers are gonna be having a really hard league coming up. Spine of the First Claimant now grants cold damage over time multiplier. I remember looking at Spine of the Claimant. It's like a Spine of the First Claimant. It's a scepter. It's an interesting scepter. Increase damage with hits against frozen enemies. Require level 20. This could be a good leveling weapon for like an Arctic Breath or a Vortex character or something, I guess. Cane of Unraveling now grants 40 to 55 to non-ailment chaos damage over time multiplier. And 20 to 30% increased chaos damage, down from 60 to 80. This is weird to me because they're doing this thing where like chaos hits are now worse, but chaos over time is now better. This is a very good league to do chaos damage or cold damage over time. Like, they were already, well, chaos damage over time anyway was already semi-legitimate. It's probably going to be strong now. We'll see, but I've been seeing a lot of stuff. Makes me think that chaos damage over time is going to be okay. New versions of Rhyme Gaze now grant plus 16 to 22 cold damage over time multiplier. Never interested in Rhyme Gaze anyway. Flesh and Spirit no longer grants 5 souls for Vol skills on Rampage. And causes kills to grant an additional Vol soul if you've Rampaged recently instead. That's better. Flesh and Spirit are those crazy gloves, right? Flesh and Spirit. Armor evasion rating, very low level. 5 souls for your Vol skill on a Rampage. No, you're just gonna go on a Rampage and then gain 1,000,000 billion Vol souls. How much percent? What is this? It just causes kills, just kills to grant an additional Vol soul. It's actually really powerful, isn't it? Isn't that powerful? It's like if you're level 15 and you want to level fast and you want to use a Vol skill to help you, like Vol haste. What level can you start using Vol haste at? 20% of your maximum life on Rampage. That's nice. Yeah, Rampage in and of itself is pretty powerful, isn't it? So if we want like Vol haste to be up as often as possible while leveling, yeah, require level 24. You can level from like 24 to 60 or whatever with those gloves, Rampage up, and just try to keep Vol haste up. That might help. Maybe that'll be fast. Who knows? Some leveling gear or something. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Vol Cold Snap leveling. Yeah, boy! Vol Cold Snap. Vol Cold Snap got buffed, so... Wildfire is now limited to 1. Just chopping away at the ankles of Molten Strike, like... They're gonna get it. Alright, Zerfi's Last Breath now grants a buff when you use a skill during the flask's effect. This buff recovers 450 to 600% of the skill's mana cost as life per second. This buff and the healing is removed when you are hit. This affects all versions of the item. Oh yeah. Goodbye, Zerfies. That's a nail in the coffin there. Zerfies is finally gone. Ooh. So it's just it's a buff, it recovers some shit, and it's removed when you're hit. 600% of the skill's mana cost is life per second. Well, what I'm worried about is that it's a buff that would replace itself. So I mean, you can get your skills costing a reasonably high amount, right? But if you can only have one of this buff, if it's a non-stackable buff, or it replaces itself somehow or something like that, then you're really only talking about like 600% of the skill's mana cost is life per second. So 6 times, what, like 100 as life per second? That's a lot of life per second, but it's still an overtime thing.
So, I just want to explain this because it would take way too long to write. The way I look at Zerfies now with the way that Eldritch Battery is coming in, because you do not need... It just gives you that buff, right?
Yeah.
If you use a skill during Flask effect, so you don't. If your mana goes back to 100%, you're not going to lose that buff. Correct? And is it? Maybe I read it wrong. Zerfies.
The buff is removed when you're hit, dude.
Yeah, I know, but a lot of characters aren't getting hit all the time.
Yeah. I don't see this flask being used a lot.
No, but like,
I think it basically got put 10 feet under. I think we'll be lucky if we see anybody in the top. It's
now that I think about it,
it's gonna be
the Cowrie's just better.
It's gonna be a little underwhelming, I think, as far as like, because why would you use it for the mana recovery, and then the life recovery aspect of it got so punished.
Yeah, it's not instant. If it was instant, but.
Yeah, it's really hard, unfortunately now. Sadly. Because Zerfies was a cool item. They did put a div card in where you can get yourself a Zerfies this league for the low price of just a little div card farming, and you will be wildly disappointed if you didn't read these patch notes when you receive your first Zerfies. Blood of the Corruptions, Gluttony of Elements. I mean, if you didn't read the patch notes, how do you know to farm for the div card, though? I guess. Blood of Corruptions, Gluttony of Elements skill now prevents those affected by the aura from gaining Vol souls. Okay, this affects all versions of the item. Oh, so any Vol souls. That's pretty good. That's actually wild. they're trying to subtly make it very, very difficult to do those kinds of like permanently immune builds, basically. So you can't just stagger with allies. Yeah, that's so. Well, it's worse than that, right? Because if you use Gluttony of Elements and affect your whole team, they can't even use their like Vol Discipline. They can't use any of their Vol skills because they're just not going to gain Vol souls. And this seems different from Lockout to me, from like the traditional soul lockout. So this is probably going to be impossible to avoid. And Blood of Corruption now prevents. I would be, if this isn't some kind of debuff that might actually also be affected by duration, then I'd be surprised as well. So it could potentially be really bad, because you could, if you try to build a character that does like duration shenanigans to get stuff like full-time immunity or whatever, this could be really difficult to work in now. Probably impossible. Rigwald's crest now correctly displays 10% chance to summon wolves on kill rather than 5%. That was totally a lie because it was actually 10%. This is a purely cosmetic change. This is the most Path of Exile thing I've ever read in my life. I just need to... Path of Exile needs to put this at the top of their website on the banner. It was actually 10%. This is a purely cosmetic change. This is a buff. Clarified the description on Skuld's Bridal Key mod, on the Skuld's Bridal Key mod, to clarify it does not apply when spending mana on a reservation, only for costs. This too is a purely cosmetic change. Okay. What are you gonna, people reserving mana over and over really fast? Monster expecting something cool to happen? Monster changes. The Rogue Exile Ultimate Thule now uses the updated version of Ice Spear. This is a buff. Updated the Cannibal's torch-throwing behavior. It also looks cooler now. Blood Chieftains can now hurl blood apes at you. That was the... I wasn't after these two, I wasn't expecting this. Blood Chieftains can now hurl blood apes at you. What? Fury Hounds now use the updated version of Burning Ground. Okay. What is this, like a performance improvement? Temple of the Atzodal changes. The level of the present day temple is now the average level of each incursion, plus 10, capped at the highest level incursion for that temple. Okay, I never played Incursion, so I don't really understand this one. I'll have to wait until I get in game to mess with Incursion and figure it out. Azurite Mine and Sulfite changes. Both depth notifications are now announced every 50 depth levels, so you won't get spammed with updates. Thanks. Slightly reduced the damage dealt by darkness based on player life and energy shield, and added a small amount of flat damage per darkness stack. Fuck you, Gouda. Fuck you. That's what I read. Sorry, guys. Poor fucking everybody trying to do everybody. It's not just Gouda. Gouda was there with a whole bunch of other dudes theory crafting on how to do that, right? And these guys now just like they're just like, here, you really can't stay in the darkness forever, guys. We just don't want you to do that. Sitting here like, just have it kill you after a certain number of seconds. So you die. The pulsating grotto encounter now lasts longer before the boss appears. Pulsating grotto encounter? That's a euphemism if ever I saw one. Now lasts longer before the boss appears. I don't know what they mean by the pulsating grotto encounter. I don't think I ever did that. Monsters in this encounter award significantly more experience when slain. Okay. Reduce the number of Urzae that plummet in the plummeting Urzae encounters. Press F to pay respects. Urzae encounters. Rest in peace. That was like the most fun thing in Delve. Special encounters now drop more rare items and a wider variety of items as well. Okay, yeah, that's fine. I like that. Fossils and resonators are now found more frequently behind fractured walls and less frequently in more accessible areas. So if you want fossils, bring dynamite. That's good for me. I mean, like, depending on how frequently you can delve this league, I'm anticipating still making a lot of currency just farming shallow depth delves and doing fossil farming. Because this was what I was doing all last league, and I made more exalts last league than I've ever made before. I was sitting on like 52 exalts. Just loose currency with nothing to do with them. So I think at this point, like if you're getting like double the amount of fossils because they think you're gonna delve less, it's just like run maps until you can delve and then delve. You're like, just delve when you hit cap. Always push your cap up first, I think. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it works out. Maybe it'll be way worse. Your bestiary book is now account-wide. If you catch a beast once in one league, it'll be recorded in your bestiary and all other leagues in perpetuity. The itemized beasts themselves are still league-specific. I don't know quite what that means because I didn't play bestiary, but I like the idea of the bestiary stuff, and I like the idea of it not being as cantankerous as it was before because it seemed really clunky before. There's now a global capture limit of 1,000 beasts rather than a per genus limit. The previous total maximum was approximately 680. Then most players were likely to hit genus-specific limits. Okay, so there was a limit on specific beasts, and there is now no genus limit. Okay. Beast crafting recipes have been completely reworked and simplified. Thank you, GGG. We appreciate it. Non-spirit beast unique beasts can't appear. That is a sentence. Non-spirit beasts unique beasts can't appear in the menagerie or bestiary. Yeah, I'm too stupid for these patch notes. Prophecy changes. Adjusted the weight of many prophecies. The weightings of many prophecies. IDK might be FF Jill. Right? So, prophecy changes. Adjusted the weightings of many prophecies. That's good. We need prophecy changes because the prophecy system sucks. You use it for basically one thing. It's very, like, it's a simple, straightforward system that you use and you get a benefit from, and it's not really a big deal otherwise. You can, I guess, grind for prophecies if you really want to try super hard buying silver coins and shit, turning them over into some kind of profit, but we need prophecy buffs, please. Please, just change it, make it better, utilize it more. You can now complete the steps of many prophecy chains in various maps. Okay. Alright, so they're broadening up the tile sets in which prophecies can trigger, I believe. Prophecies which can trigger maps no longer lock their triggers to specific maps out of the possible pool. In other words, if you attempt to open a map where prophecy might trigger and it doesn't, it may trigger the next time you open it. Previously, if it did not trigger in that map, it never would. That's good. That's good. Prophecies that previously forced the appearance of one of the old masters now forces the appearance of one of the new ones instead. Yeah, new masters. Map changes. The Atlas of Worlds has been shuffled. We know this. We saw. Thanks. Many map bosses have also shifted around. Some have been retired and replaced. Always good. The new map bosses have by and large been way better experiences. As a part of this Atlas shuffle, many maps have been reviewed with have been reviewed with the goal of bringing their layouts or monster densities up to par with other maps. This is a buff. This is another buff that will favor my preferred strategy of completing the Atlas and running strong maps as opposed to shaping the Atlas and running specific maps. So I am hugely in favor of this, and it spices up the game. It makes it less boring, in my opinion. It makes running maps repetitively in a way that doesn't feel bad less boring. and it removes some of the dull tedium of the system that wanted you to, or encouraged and incentivized players to shape their map. Map shaping is an interesting problem, but once you've solved it, it's just tedium. It's okay, well, I do the thing, and then I've got the maps, and I run this one map repeatedly forever. I would much prefer to chase the master spawns around the maps and chase Elder and Shaper around the maps, try to line all those things up and use my sextants wisely and all that stuff, than to just set my Shaper Elder up in one corner of the map, shape a map, and try to do that endlessly. Like, that seems so... It's a less engaging form of play, even if it's an interesting problem to solve from the perspective of a competitive gamer. So I'm in favor of this pretty hugely. Map icons have been updated to indicate that they are part of the new series. Existing maps from previous series have been updated to these new versions. Have been updated to these new versions? Is that all existing maps from the previous series? Yeah. Alright, I was hoping all my standard maps finally became stackable and I could use a stash tab. Zana change, good, favorite. Let's see. Completing a map as part of a Zana mission now counts towards your Atlas map completion. Thank God. This was so fucking stupid that this wasn't already the default. And any associated challenges or achievements. Fucking thank you. I don't understand why this even had to be something else by default. If you complete it was so disappointing. Constantly, you go into a map because Zana opens a map for you, and you're like, oh my god, a new zone. Like, I'm not big into lore or whatever, but from like an aesthetic standpoint, as a role player, if you get in and that happens, and then you don't get your map completion or whatever, you feel fucking awful, right? And then as a completionist or a competitive player, you're trying to get your objectives accomplished, and you feel like you're going to, and you get out, and it's just disappointment for everyone all the time. Why? Thank you for this change. This change is a good change. This is a buff. The Springs map has been replaced by the Fungal Hollow map. I like the Springs map. Go fuck yourself. Existing Springs map will now open portals to the Fungal Hollow. Go fuck yourself. Why did you repeat this as existing Springs? Okay, so stuff that's in standard. What if I want to run Springs maps? The Acid Lakes. I like Spring. I hope I like Fungal Hollow. I better. I like my Springs map. The Acid Lakes map has been replaced by the Acid Caverns map. Existing Acid Lakes maps will now open portals to Acid Caverns. Acid Lakes was okay too. What the hell? The Tribunal map has been replaced by the Crater map. We nuked Tribunal. Existing Tribunal maps will now open portals to the Crater. Okay. The Gorge map has been replaced by the Glacier map. Existing Gorge maps will now open portals to Glacier. Alright. The Torture Chamber map has been replaced by the Primordial Blocks map. Existing Torture Chamber maps now open portals to the Lunaris Temple. Kidding, it'll open a portal to Primordial Blocks. This feels so fucking out of place. Chris Wilson was like, yeah, I'm throw joking. Alright. Thanks. Sextants that previously forced the appearance of an old master now force the appearance of new ones. Increase the average number of monsters spawned inside the Abyssal Depths area. Inside an Abyssal Depths area. That's pretty good. I like that. More mobs is good. More mobs to kill is better. The Atlas icons, which indicate that a certain map contains a memory fragment, will now correctly state whether it is the boss, an Elder Guardian, or the Elder itself that holds it. Okay. Alright. Vision of Justice and the Goddess projectile barrage skills have changed in such a way that instead of multiplying the number of projectiles these skills fire, additional projectiles add to the total number of projectiles fired. This is a nerf to those bosses, and it's justified. The Goddess projectile barrage skill, if you were on a map that was like plus 2 additional projectiles, would just kill you. It was so powerful. It was so powerful. I remember running probably like 60 of those maps this league just to try to get that fight down. Wasn't good. If you got one of those maps, it was just like you couldn't let her hit you with that. It's like instead of whatever 8-9 projectiles, she'd just throw like 40 at you. With the removal of master levels, Zana's map device options are now unlocked as you progress through the Atlas quest chain. Okay. These are the League mods available during 3.5 with their costs in the expected order that they will be unlocked. First thing, Elder. Elder is there. Yes, requires a rare map. Opens a version of your map at T16. Randomly rolled as a rare. I'm reading from the bottom up, just so you guys know right now. Boom! 15 Chaos requires a rare map. Is this more expensive? No, I think 15 Chaos is what it was, right? I'm trying to remember. I think it might have gone up a little. Anyway. We got Anarchy for 3 additional Rogue Exiles, Torment for 4 additional Spirits. These are both 2 Chaos. That's pretty good. Fortune Favors the Brave is just totally at random, including those you have not yet unlocked, which is nice. Wow, so you could open a tier 15? Is this evenly weighted? Could be crazy. Alternate of the same tier. Only costs a Chaos Orb, requires a rare map. Opens a rare map at the same tier, excluding the map you placed in the device. This was just a good change. When they implemented this at first, everybody was excited, and it's just better for SSF players. It's better for SC and HC players looking to rush their Atlas to completion for Atlas bonus. Domination area contains 3 extra shrines, 3 chaos. Maybe people will use this. Parandus is back? That's cool. Shaped. Tier 1 to 5 requires a map. Opens a version of your map 5 tiers higher. So you could get a tier 10 map for 2 chaos from a T5 map. If you have a lot of chaos, this could work out in your favor, I guess. If you're leveling a character and you are low on maps and high on chaos. Breach. 2 additional breaches for chaos. Not sure with the nerf to breach density that's worth. Harbinger. 4 chaos. Contains harbingers. Grinding those exalt shards. You get some mirror shards. Shaped tier 1 through 10 costs 6 chaos orbs. 5 tiers higher, so if you have a tier 10 and you have 6 chaos orbs, you can open a tier 15 map. It's not bad for 6 chaos for a tier 15 map. It's about what, I mean, tier 50, you're going to save yourself some, if you're doing experience grinds and you're trying to get decent bases early in the league, you're definitely going to save yourself currency if you do this. Strongbox changes. The Stream of Monsters Strongbox mod now spawns monsters much more quickly and can spawn magic and rare monsters. Thank you. So this is like the Harbinger changes that they had after they realized Harbingers are way too slow, and I don't understand because this has been around since before Harbingers. Making it faster is just the sensible thing to do. Everybody's going to enjoy this change. This is just a good change. Remove the Leave Guild button from the drop-down player menu. Thank God. It was so scary and stupid that it was there. The League key, default V, now shows either the Bestiary, your Inclusion Temple, the Delve Azurite Mine, or the Betrayal Investigation Board based on where you are when you use it. So I'm guessing it's going to be the Betrayal Investigation Board most of the time, the Azurite Mine when you are in the Azurite Mines, Bestiary when you're in the Menagerie, and Incursion Temple when, I don't know, because I don't know anything about Incursion. Stash tab drop down menu now shows symbols next to the various prim tabs. I actually love this change. This is a really little quality of life thing, but I'm a very visual guy, having spent a good amount of my adult life as an artist, and I love this change. That is just a nice little feels good change. I hope maybe they'll give like MTX stickers or something for this to have new other icons. That might be a good place to insert some MTX. Added a mini-map zoom slider in the settings. Okay. We'll see how that works out. You can now buy entire stacks of currency from vendors with shift click. This will buy the most you can afford, up to a full stack. I really hope if you press Control Shift that it automatically puts a full stack into your inventory, because otherwise this is going to be useless. But I think it's probably going to work, so it's probably going to be really, really good. Save everybody a lot of repetitive stress injury. Zana's map rewards have been updated. PvP changes. You know, everybody was waiting for this. The capacity to create PvP chain characters is now unlocked after freeing the Scion. So you hear that, PvP players? You have to be PvE first. Poet's Pen, Null's Inclination, Azanath's Chant, Mjolnir, Cosby's Malice, and casting Critical Strike Support Gem. Now scale the damage of triggered spells based on the attack time of the triggering attack. They no longer have an 80% damage penalty across all triggered skills. Alright. Block chance reduction support has been adjusted. See the support gem balance section for further information. Yeah, I think it got better, basically. Does anybody care? PvP in Path of Exile is so ridiculous. It's just silly. Alright, anyway, whatever. Bug fixes. Fixed a bug where Stone Skin Flare's skill effect and audio would linger after death, despite not even being a part of the Immortal Syndicate. So this is what, just for alpha testers? Fixed a bug where the Doriani's touch skill wasn't visually scaling its area of effect. Now betas probably. They do beta now. Like beta keys or something. Fixed a bug where the Doriani's touch skill wasn't visually scaling to its area of effect. Okay, fixed a bug with very old characters, make it unclear how to continue after slaying Dominus. Fixed a case of I think I actually ran into that once. I went and tried to push a really old character forward. Something confusing happened, I remember. Fixed a case of desync. Fixed a case of desync caused by the guild stash location in towns and hideouts while you were not in a guild. Bug where detonate dead could fail to detonate a detonatable corpse if there were non-detonatable corpses around. Okay. Bug where Zoff's Nurture 3D model was the wrong base type. Okay. Fixed a bug which prevented Mjolnir from triggering Orb Storms. Fixed a bug where it was possible to complete and uncomplete a challenge multiple times. Fixed a bug where increased damage sources on minions were increasing damage in ways they shouldn't have been. I think I heard about this, but I don't remember exactly what it was. Fixed a bug where using an instant skill would not remove the phase run buff. No! Everybody loved that though. Fixed a bug where mana spent as part of a reservation did not count towards sources that tracked and cared about mana spent, such as Kitava's Thirst. Okay. I guess that's a bug. It's such an edge case. I guess somebody cared about it. Fixed a bug where having no movement speed prevented the use of instant skills. Well, that's very interesting. Oh, okay. Home stretch. Home stretch, guys. Fixed a bug where using an instant skill and quickly swapping out of that skill gem with a non-instant skill would cause that new skill to be used instantly. That's a really interesting bug. Doing the reverse would cause your character to become stuck. Alright. Fixed a bug again where golem duration was being passed down from the primordial jewels to the golems themselves when it should not have been. Golem duration. Okay. I guess. Fixed a crash caused by attempting to use detonator mine after it had been given a mana cost and you did not have the mana required to use it. Fixed a bug where casting Vol Molten Shell while you already had a Vol Molten Shell active would prevent Vol Molten Shell from correctly detonating prevented physical damage. Fixed cases where old accounts could have Shaper's Stronghold Guardian maps? Huh. So I guess they can't spawn there anyway? Old accounts could have Shaper's Strongholds on Guardian maps? Alright. Fixed a bug which, or with sources of reduced effect on curses exceeding 100%. Your curses would behave erratically. Huh. Erratically. I wonder what that means. Fixed a bug where Shaper's Stronghold could spawn on maps that weren't adjacent to Elder Influence. This was unintended. As if it's a secret. As if Carve didn't tell everyone. You want to get your Elder Influence to a certain extent so that you just know where your Shaper Strongholds are going to spawn, and then you just run them forever. Everybody knew that. Fixed a bug which prevented Cannibal Fire Eater Spectres from doing anything but auto-attacking large bosses. Fixed some cases where monsters could become untargetable in the Delve Undead Roa encounter and the laboratory map. Fix some typeso. Good. Thanks, Bex. That was awesome. Yeah. Alright. Guess that's that. Huh. So, is there... I haven't been checking. Is there a list of... Is there a list of unique items somewhere? I don't know. But anyway, all of these changes, almost every single change here is good. And in fact, you know, even though they didn't handle stat sticks quite the way that I expected them to, or the way in which I think that I would have done it if it were my call, I am glad that stat sticks have been punished, because they were a really shoddy, a kind of cancerous aspect of the game. Standing. Alright, well, that was 3.5 patch notes. Path of Exile, Betrayal. I think my overall impression is that Betrayal is gonna rock. Betrayal is just looks like a relatively fun league. They're bringing back a bunch of mechanics, and every change that they've made is like a heavily requested quality of life improvement for everybody. So good luck, and I guess if you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment if you want to give me your impression of what the league's going to be like, or tell me what you're going to do, because I don't know what I'm going to do for the league, since apparently I'm not allowed to run Arctic Breath, since like 9 of my friends are doing that.
I'm not going to run it.
So we'll see what's going to happen. It looks like a good league to run Chaos or Cold Damage over time. Good luck, everybody. Anybody who's been lurking here, I love you guys, and I will talk to you all soon.